Chapter 786. As Zhao Feng soaked in the body-strengthening liquid and the ancient dream realm blood essence, he could feel the burning sensation from the depths of his bloodline becoming stronger. Zhao Feng wasn't a newbie who didn't know anything. Naturally, he understood what this sign meant. This bloodline seems to be a fire elemental bloodline. Zhao Feng's eyebrows furrowed. This was because he already had an ice-water bloodline in his body. It was a product of the god's spiritual eye. If this bloodline was a fire elemental bloodline, then the two elements countered each other. As the burning sensation became stronger, a bright red light appeared in Zhao Feng's bloodline. It was lighter than his blood, and it seemed to be translucent. This bloodline power isn't any weaker than the 10,000 ancient races. Zhao Feng revealed a weird expression. Luckily, the elemental suppression that Zhao Feng was worried about didn't appear. Both the ice-water bloodline from the god's spiritual eye and the bright red flaming bloodline were products of his body. The human body was made up of many particles of the 5 elements, so they could maintain a balance. Zhao Feng circulated his eye intent and easily controlled the bright red flaming bloodline. The aura of the god's spiritual eye could suppress this bloodline. Furthermore, Zhao Feng's intent was so strong that he could easily control the mystic ice-scaled race bloodline, which was ranked 89th among the 10,000 ancient races. I wonder what the abilities of this bloodline are like. Zhao Feng thought. He could easily activate his bloodline. He had the experience from his previous life and emperor intent. Furthermore, the ancient dream realm bloodline could accelerate the awakening of bloodlines. Zhao Feng and the child demigod had already discovered this a long time ago. I'll activate my bloodline to the maximum. I can find someone to test it out in the divine illusion trials tomorrow. Zhao Feng soon made a decision. On the same day, Zhao Feng's bloodline, from awakening to activating, completed a process that others would take several years, or even 10 years to do. However, Zhao Feng also used a lot of ancient dream realm blood essence and other treasures. Late that night, in the sky above Zhao Feng's courtyard, a layer of bright red, translucent flames appeared, covering an area of hundreds of feet in radius. What aura? That faint bloodline aura caused the bloodlines of the nearby core disciples to instinctively tremble uneasily. But afterward that bloodline aura was easily withdrawn. It was harder to sense from a distance. Even so, the signs and bloodline aura of Zhao Feng's courtyard attracted the attention of a few observant people. The next morning, the core disciples came out early with fervor and expectation on their faces. The Divine Fantasy Continent preliminaries are about to begin. Senior Brother Guang took a deep breath and walked out of his courtyard. He subconsciously glanced at the courtyard where Zhao Feng was. He was slightly startled by what he saw. In the sky above Zhao Feng's courtyard, a bright fiery glow intertwined with the early morning sun. Faintly, the light of the crimson flame seemed to merge with the power of the primordial golden crow. Is it related to the golden crow race bloodline of the 10,000 ancient races? Zhao Feng sat cross-legged and his heart jumped. Immediately after, he suddenly shook his head. The golden crow race was ranked 8th on the 10,000 ancient races, and could be said to be a heaven-defying race. Speaking of the golden crow race, there was one in the fan universe. That was the immemorial glorious sun. If one flew out of the area, they would be able to get close to the golden crow, also known as the sun. The flame energy of the primordial golden crow was the strongest in the world, able to incinerate all things. Up until now, no one dared to get close to the golden crow. Even demigods or heavenly gods would be instantly turned to dust if they got close to the golden crow. It could be said that it was an invincible race that was immeasurably large and provided the light of the entire fan universe. However, the golden crow was extremely far away from the continent zone, and with the obstruction of the limitless ocean, it wasn't much of a threat. If it wasn't for the limitless ocean, over 90% of the beings in heaven and earth would be destroyed by the light of the golden crow. There were records of this in the ancient legends. At a certain time in the ancient era, there were 10 golden crows. Even the powerful beings of the ancient era found it hard to survive. Everything in the ancient era was about to be destroyed. Thus, the races started to discuss how to deal with the 10 golden crows. However, The power of the 10 golden crows was too terrifying. Even the ancient gods couldn't get close. At the moment of danger, an ancient prodigy had appeared in the first-ranked ancient race. He had used a peerless divine bow forged by the races to kill 9 golden crows in a single breath. Only then was the world saved. Of course, all of this was a legend. Whether it was real or fake, it showed how terrifying the golden crow race was. My bloodline can absorb the power of the golden crow. Although it's not the golden crow race's bloodline, it's still weird. Zhao Feng murmured. He didn't even dare to think about the top 10 bloodlines of the 10,000 ancient races. They were probably on par with the 8 great god eyes. After all, there were a few fire Dao bloodlines or techniques that could absorb the power of Yang from the golden crow race. For example, the Sky Sun Battle Race bloodline was connected to the golden crow race and could absorb the power of the golden crow race. Hu Zhaofeng let out a long breath and started to withdraw his bloodline power. After one night, his newly born bloodline had been developed to a large extent. As for his bloodline, Zhao Feng planned to ask the Zhao clan after the divine illusion trials ended and see if the Zhao clan had a similar bloodline. Junior Marshal Brother Zhao. The sweet voice of a female sounded from outside the courtyard. Senior Marshal Sister Wan. Zhao Feng walked out of the courtyard and saw the gentle Senior Marshal Sister Wan Rong. Zhao Feng could clearly feel Senior Marshal Brother Guang's jealous gaze. Over the past few months, Senior Marshal Sister Wan Rong had broken through to the True Lord rank and didn't want to give up on the divine illusion dimension. Junior Marshal Brother Zhao, Junior Marshal Sister Wan. Senior Marshal Brother Guang squeezed out a smile and walked over. In order to enter the divine illusion dimension, Senior Marshal Brother Guang had put in a lot of effort, and with the help of his master, he had reached the half-step origin core realm. The half-step origin core realm was among the upper ranks of the central disciples. However, even then, Senior Marshal Brother Guang didn't have absolute confidence that he could obtain a spot. The central disciples formed groups of 3 to 5 and went to participate in the divine illusion trials. Zhao Feng's cultivation was at the origin core realm, which made him stand out amongst the central disciples. Even some core disciples might not be at the origin core realm. Any disciple that reached the origin core realm at this age would have been taken in as a disciple by a king, or even an emperor. Facing the current Zhao Feng, Senior Marshal Brother Guang had a complicated expression and felt helpless. It was as if no matter what he did, he couldn't stop this youth's rise. The central disciples were extremely respectful towards Zhao Feng and tried their best to get on his good side. Zhao Feng's attitude was slightly cold and arrogant, but it didn't affect the passion of a central disciple. Senior Marshal Brother Guang also wanted to join them, but he was helpless and bitter. He had a worried look on his face. How to resolve his grudge with Zhao Feng was a major problem. Otherwise, with Zhao Feng's rise, it would be hard for him to gain a foothold in the 10,000 Sacred Clan. On an ancient mountain range within the territory of the 10,000 Sacred Clan, all the disciples participating in the Divine Illusion Trials were gathered here. The Divine Illusion Trials were split into 2 groups. One group was made up of the younger generation, and the other group was made up of the older generation. These 2 groups weren't together. All disciples participating in the Divine Illusion Trials are to enter the secret dimension. A Void God Realm King spoke. Zhao Feng knew this king. It was Huang Yunhu's master, King Lu Yun. A trial is being held in a secret dimension? How extravagant. As expected of a 3-star power. Zhao Feng clicked his tongue. In reality, before the demigod Forgotten Garden opened, the 3-star mystic True Sacred Clan, which Zhao Feng was from, also held a competition in a secret dimension. But by the time Zhao Feng arrived, the competition for spots had already ended. Back then, it was Duan Wuqing who had helped Zhao Feng obtain a spot. The 10,000 Sacred Clan had special rights, and they had a few spots. Wang boom! A faint green whirlpool appeared in the air above the mountain range. Whoosh! 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 The disciples entered the whirlpool. Zhao Feng sat on the Yinming bird and entered the whirlpool with Senior Marshal Sister Wan Rong. Bo! They seemed to pass through a layer of water, and they entered a dimension with great pressure. This secret dimension was faintly green, and it was slightly darker than the outside world. The secret dimension was only 100 miles wide, and its layout was similar to the ancient arenas of the Sacred Alliance. From this, it could be seen that this secret realm was specially created for this kind of competition. There were 2 Void God Realm kings in charge of this secret dimension, and most of the other judges were half-step kings, or peak sovereign lords. There were a total of 8 arenas in the arena, but only 4 of them were open. They were in the east, west, south, and north. Every disciple who participated in the selection would receive a number plate when they registered. Zhao Feng was sent to the south arena. There were about 100 core disciples and outer disciples assigned to each arena. Outer disciples could participate in the divine illusion trials as well. Zhao Feng's eyes scanned over and found that there were some familiar people in this group. Most of them were core disciples that he knew. Huang Yunhu, who had lost to Zhao Feng twice, was also in this group. After 2 defeats, Huang Yunhu finally broke through to the origin core realm under his master's scolding. However, a day or 2 after he broke through to the origin core realm, Zhao Feng also broke through. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to him. They're both at the origin core realm, but spiritual pets aren't allowed in the divine illusion trials. Huang Yunhu's eyes twinkled. However, when he thought about how Zhao Feng was able to defeat him, who was at the half-step origin core realm, Huang Yunhu instantly lost his confidence. Lu Tianfan. Oh my god, this guy was sent to the south arena. Exclamations came from the crowd. Everyone's gazes were attracted by a tall youth on the south arena. Lu Tianfan, ranked 3rd among the core disciples. He's at the peak great origin core realm, and he's the personal disciple of an emperor. Zhao Feng obviously knew this person. Most of the top 20 core disciples were at the origin core realm. Lu Tianfan. Huang Yunhu's eyes lit up as he immediately walked over. Since they were both core disciples, Huang Yunhu and Lu Tianfan's relationship wasn't bad. At the same time, Zhao Feng's gaze landed on a beautiful girl wearing a colorful robe on the east arena. Kong Feiling, the top core disciple of the 10,000 Sacred Clan, half-step king cultivation, and has an imperial Dao bloodline. Chapter 787. The multicolored robed Kong Feiling was obviously the center of attention. Zhao Feng wasn't the only one paying attention to her. Without a doubt, Kong Feiling was the prodigy of the 10,000 Sacred Clan, the last disciple of an emperor, an imperial Dao bloodline. She was even listed on the imperial genius rankings. In the Great Gon Lord dynasty, there was the imperial Dao bloodline ranking, which listed the 500 strongest bloodlines. Apart from that, there was the Imperial Genius Rankings, which listed the 500 strongest geniuses. Something worth mentioning was that these 2 rankings were the survival of the fittest, with some advancing and some retreating. After all, as time progressed, geniuses grew, and bloodlines evolved. Within the arena, of all the geniuses of the 10,000 Sacred Clan, Zhao Feng only glanced at Kong Feiling a little more, and felt that her talent and strength were close to Nan Gongxing's. As if she had sensed something, the beautiful woman of rainbow feathers turned her beautiful eyes to where Zhao Feng was. Instantly, an invisible mental energy pressure covered the area where Zhao Feng was. The 10 geniuses near Zhao Feng felt a suffocating pressure, as if they had been sliced by an invisible blade. Plop! The knees of one of the true spirit realm outer disciples went soft, and he knelt onto the ground. Of these people, only Zhao Feng remained calm and composed, even faintly smiling. That youth! Kong Feiling couldn't help but exclaim. Even under the pressure of her half-step intent, that youth was still able to act so casually. Senior Martial Sister Kong. That person is the beast tamer Zhao Feng, who has recently become famous in the sect. I heard that he's the disciple of a mysterious emperor, and Duke Nanfeng even appreciates him. A male in green next to her introduced with a smile. The brief exchange of gazes between Zhao Feng and Kong Feiling obviously caught the attention of the other geniuses. Who's that guy? He can withstand the half-step intent of the head disciple? The gazes of many geniuses turned toward Zhao Feng. This was especially so for the southern arena where Zhao Feng was. He's the Zhao Feng you were talking about. A sharp light flashed through Lu Tianfan's eyes. Huang Yunhu suppressed the shock in his heart and nodded repeatedly. That's him. Huang Yunhu didn't expect Zhao Feng to be in the limelight this much. Even a half-step king's will couldn't suppress him. He had whispered to Lu Tianfan and fanned the flames, hoping that Lu Tianfan would teach Zhao Feng a lesson. You don't need to instigate me. I'm interested in this Zhao Feng. Lu Tianfan gave him a meaningful look. Huang Yunhu felt weak in his heart, and his back was covered in cold sweat. Lu Tianfan's cultivation was only below Kong Feiling, who was ranked first in the 10,000 sacred clan. Lu Tianfan should be able to teach Zhao Feng a lesson with his strength. Huang Yunhu thought. After all, the difference in their cultivation was too great. One was at the initial origin core realm, while the other was at the peak great origin core realm. According to the rules of the Divine Fantasy trial, there was a high chance that Zhao Feng, Huang Yunhu, and Lu Tianfan would meet. The rules of the competition are an elimination system. If you lose 7 matches in a row, and the total number of matches you lose reaches 20, you will be eliminated from the competition. Zhao Feng said in his heart. The top 50 would be chosen from each arena. At the end, the top 60 would be chosen from the 4 arenas. Even the overall competition adopted an elimination system. Only 60 people were left after the elimination. Why 60? Not 65. This was because 5 of the spots were decided by the clan. Not long after, the battles on the 4 arenas started at the same time. Plop. Arg. As soon as the battle began, a disciple was sent flying. The victor was decided in an instant. Zhao Feng looked over and couldn't help but shake his head. The 10,000 sacred clan disciples participating in the Divine Fantasy trials ranged from outer disciples to core disciples, then core disciples, and their strengths were all different. If an outer disciple met a core disciple, they would be instantly killed. Round after round, the competition continued. It was soon Zhao Feng's turn. However, his opponent was slightly weak. He was only an early-stage True Lord rank core disciple. I admit defeat. The True Lord rank core disciple immediately admitted defeat when he saw Zhao Feng, who was at the origin core realm. His cultivation was at the origin core realm, and he was definitely at the top of the younger generation. Rather than being injured, it was better to conserve his strength. Usually, when the difference in strength was too great, the judge would announce the winner early. Just like that, Zhao Feng's first match ended abruptly. Lu Tianfan and Huang Yunhu, who had the highest cultivation in the southern arena, were the same. These two were true disciples. When other disciples encountered them, they would immediately admit defeat. In the eyes of the other disciples, Zhao Feng was no different from a core disciple, and he was even more unfathomable than normal core disciples. Half a day later, Zhao Feng's second opponent was a peak True Lord rank, and he also admitted defeat. Boring. Zhao Feng shook his head. The little thieving cat on his shoulder was also lazy. It wasn't that the battles weren't interesting. Some evenly matched battles, or the weak defeating the strong, also appeared from time to time. Instead, it was Zhao Feng, whose cultivation was at the origin core realm, who stood at the top of the younger generation of the 10,000 sacred clan. Compared to back in the sacred True Dragon gathering, Zhao Feng's cultivation was below average, and his strength was only above average at the start. At the beginning of the sacred True Dragon gathering, the opponents of the 5 overwhelming prodigies were either instantly killed or admitted defeat. It was also very boring. However, the Divine Illusion trials used an elimination system, and the process was very long. The entire Divine Illusion trials would take around 20 days to a month. The Divine Illusion trials was different from the Sacred True Dragon gathering. The Sacred True Dragon gathering needed to decide the top 10. On the other hand, the Divine Illusion trials would continuously eliminate people until there were exactly the same number of people left. Until the third battle, Zhao Feng's opponent was a cold-faced youth at the half-step origin core realm, and he was an elite amongst the core disciples. This Zhao Feng has only just reached the origin core realm. If I'm able to fight evenly with him, I might be able to catch the attention of a king elder. The cold-faced youth made up his mind. Although the chances of him winning weren't high, he still decided to try. On the arena, the clash between Zhao Feng and the cold-faced youth attracted the attention of some people. Among them were the strongest in the South Arena, Lu Tianfan, the true disciple Huang Yunhu, and the strongest true disciple Kong Feiling. However, the battle ended faster than he had imagined. Shua shua. A faint ripple of wind and lightning was left behind, and the cold-faced youth's attack missed. Not good. Then he felt a heavy gust of wind coming from behind him. Pung pung. The cold-faced youth was smashed to the ground by the youth behind him. He barely managed to circulate his half-step true yuan defense, but it was like paper in front of that simple punch. Hua! A wave of shocked exclamations arose within the arena. What speed! Most of the spectators only saw a blur as Zhao Feng punched out, and the cold-faced youth fell to the ground. Those with lower cultivation could only sense Zhao Feng's speed. However, those with higher cultivation had solemn expressions and disbelief. That punch just now didn't seem to contain any true yuan. Huang Yunhu's mouth dropped open. He was paying 120% attention to Zhao Feng's battle. After all, he had lost to Zhao Feng twice. No. Lu Tianfan, who was standing beside him, said with certainty. Just now, Zhao Feng had first closed in with overwhelming speed, and then unleashed a simple punch. That punch didn't contain any true yuan, but it easily shattered the defense of a half-step origin core realm. After this battle, Zhao Feng's fame rose, and everyone feared him. After that, as long as Zhao Feng's opponents weren't at the origin core realm, they would immediately admit defeat. He won 8 matches in a row. In the 9th match, Zhao Feng met Huang Yunhu. Has it started? Huang Yunhu sucked in a deep breath and prepared for battle. He lost to Zhao Feng in both battles, and he even made King Lu Yin lose face. At this moment, King Lu Yin was also paying attention to this battle. Begin. The judge waved his hand. Huang Yunhu circulated his true yuan and covered his body in a thick scarlet crystal armor. He used a precious earth elemental earth-grade armor to defend. Huang Yunhu's strategy is not bad. His advantage is speed. As long as he can stabilize his defense, he can counterattack. Lu Tianfan praised. Pung in a blur, Zhao Feng's fist slammed into Huang Yunhu's earth-grade armor, and a soul-shaking boom resounded through the air. How is this possible? Huang Yunhu almost vomited blood as he retreated. The instant Zhao Feng punched out, a layer of silver-blue metal appeared on his body. Part of an invisible, domineering force pierced through the earth-rank armor and into his internal organs. The spectators were in an uproar. Huang Yunhu felt like he was sent flying with just one punch. Pung, pung, boom. Huang Yunhu's feet left the ground, and he was hit by Zhao Feng's powerful punches before he could stabilize himself. My earth armor can increase gravity by 10 times when it's activated, but that brat isn't affected at all. Huang Yunhu was shocked as he retreated. Wah! After a few punches, Huang Yunhu spat out a mouthful of blood, and a crack appeared on his armor. Zhao Feng wins. Seeing that the situation was not right, the referee immediately announced the verdict. In reality, this was what King Lu Yin wanted. The two aren't even on the same level. Zhao Feng was able to suppress Yin, who with just his body strengthening technique alone. King Lu Yin sighed. In the battle, he had clearly seen Huang Yunhu barely manage to counterattack and kick Zhao Feng. However, Zhao Feng's body didn't move at all. In other words, Zhao Feng's speed, power, and defense were all at the peak of the same rank. King Lu Yin also noticed that Zhao Feng's attacks were casual, as if he was holding back. This Zhao Feng is very strong. Lu Tianfan had a solemn expression, but his eyes were filled with battle intent. At the back, only a few people like Zhao Feng and Lu Tianfan were still able to maintain their winning streaks. Some geniuses had already been eliminated. As long as they lost 7 matches in a row, or lost 20 matches in a row, they would be eliminated. The core disciples on the southern stage were also looking forward to the battle between Lu Tianfan and Zhao Feng. As more disciples were eliminated, the chances of the two meeting became higher. Finally, after Zhao Feng won his 30th match, he met Lu Tianfan. This battle caught everyone's attention. Even the two kings in the secret dimension looked over with interest. This Lu Tianfan's cultivation has reached the peak sovereign lord level. I can't use my intent or my eye bloodline. For the first time, Zhao Feng felt troubled. Chapter 788. If he didn't use any of his hidden strength, Zhao Feng had no chance of winning against Lu Tianfan, who was at the peak Great Origin Core realm. The difference between the early stage Small Origin Core realm and the peak Great Origin Core realm wasn't just one realm. There were at least 6 small realms between them. Under normal circumstances, it would be a miracle if Zhao Feng wasn't instantly killed. Zhao Feng, I won't underestimate you, but you definitely won't be able to beat me. Lu Tianfan's eyes twinkled as battle intent rose. He was confident, but he wouldn't underestimate this youth that he couldn't see through. Start. The judge waved his hand. Shua. As soon as he finished speaking, a faint blue afterimage of Zhao Feng was left behind, accompanied by arcs of lightning and wind. What speed? The expressions of the spectators changed once again. The speed that Zhao Feng displayed right now was even faster than when he defeated Huang Yunhu and company. It was just as King Lu Yin had analyzed. Zhao Feng had held back a bit in his previous battles. Open! Lu Tianfan stood proudly as his hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. He didn't even look as he threw a punch to the side. Boom! That punch carried a surging dark purple halo. The terrifying power instantly sucked away all the air in the arena. The disciples near the southern arena all held their breaths. Wang bam! A silver-blue metallic figure surrounded by a layer of ripples. The water of wind thunder was blocked by Lu Tianfan's fist. Instantly, a terrifying wave of fire and lightning swept across the entire arena. Lu Tianfan stood proudly without moving. On the other hand, Zhao Feng's figure was instantly pushed back 100 yards, and he was still retreating. He was instantly killed in one move. All the experts in the secret realm looked at the sky above the southern arena. Boom! Zhao Feng's figure couldn't be stopped, and was about to fly out of the arena. At this critical moment, Shua! Whoosh! A pair of wind lightning wings formed behind Zhao Feng's back, giving off a dreamy feeling. Under the high-speed flapping of the tempest wings, Zhao Feng advanced instead of retreating. That kid actually didn't suffer any obvious injuries from that strike just now. Lu Tianfan's expression turned serious. If Zhao Feng only cultivated the 5 elemental wind lightning technique, he would be severely injured by a peak Great Origin Core realm head-on. However, after his reincarnation, he had also cultivated the Golden Kuan Sacred Lightning Body. His powerful physique greatly increased his battle prowess, and his defense was also monstrous. With the help of the water bloodline and the water of wind lightning, the minor injuries could be healed quickly. Sacred Lightning Body. Zhao Feng cried out in alarm as a layer of bluish-silver metallic luster appeared over his body. In that instant, his body grew a little taller and emitted a layer of sacred body energy that seemed to have materialized. In the air, a layer of translucent silver-blue electric patterns could be vaguely seen. Boom! Zhao Feng swooped down from the sky, his immense physical strength bringing with it a terrifying momentum. What a strong physique! Lu Tianfan's body sank as he felt the blood and qi in his body being suppressed. He had no choice but to split his quintessential origin energy to protect his internal organs. On top of that, the physical strength that Zhao Feng released contained an additional feeling of lightning on top of the child demigods. Not only did Lu Tianfan feel the pressure, but he also felt his body go slightly numb. Which emperor did that Zhao Feng come from? How did he comprehend such a profound body-strengthening technique? The 2 Void God Realm kings within the secret dimension were stunned. Even with the foundation of the 10,000 Sacred Clan, it would be hard for them to find a body-strengthening technique of this level. Zhao Feng's body was like that of a demon, and as he charged down, a dark blue lightning wind dragon appeared on his fist and gave off a palpitating aura. Boom! The dark blue lightning wind dragon smashed toward Lu Tianfan, with the support of the sacred lightning body. Swooping down from the sky, coupled with the speed boost from the wings of Tempest, the power of the attack was raised to the extreme. Unparalleled purple G. Enveloped by the terrifying power and raging wind and thunder, Several domineering purple beams of light shot out in all directions. Whoosh! Whoosh! Soon after, hundreds and thousands of dark purple light beams shot out in all directions, covering 360 degrees with no blind spots. In an instant, the air above the arena was pierced by countless beams of purple light, and they formed a destructive attack. The two figures clashed head-on once or twice in the storm of wind, lightning and purple light. In the first blow, Zhao Feng had the advantage and pushed Lu Tianfan back a step. In the second blow, the power of the unparalleled purple Ji was fully unleashed, and it pushed Zhao Feng back dozens of yards. Ice Imperial Spear. A layer of ice blue liquid covered Zhao Feng's body, forming a dark blue armor of ice and water. The ice-water battle armor rippled with lightning patterns and was ever-changing. Whoosh! Whoosh! The beams of purple light that could severely injure a small origin core realm started to smoke after hitting Zhao Feng's body. With the help of the ice-water bloodline and the water of wind lightning, the armor formed by Zhao Feng's Ice Imperial Spear didn't just have defense. It also had the power of lightning. Anyone who attacked it would be struck by lightning as well. Adding on the defense of the sacred lightning body, Lu Tianfan's Great Origin Core Realm secret technique couldn't threaten Zhao Feng at all. Whoosh! Whoosh! The wings behind Zhao Feng's back fluttered, and he flew into the air at an extremely fast speed before diving down. Inside the secret realm, some of the disciples gasped in amazement. Even the referee of the South Arena was dumbfounded. This battle had been personally adjudicated by the host king. It's hard to imagine that Zhao Feng has the initiative and is using the advantage to his advantage. King Luyan sighed. Unfortunately, with the difference in cultivation, Zhao Feng won't be able to gain any advantage in a head-on clash, and he might even be lightly injured. One of the kings sighed. It was already a miracle that Zhao Feng was able to do this. On the other hand, Lu Tianfan had a solemn expression, and he felt frustrated. His speed wasn't bad, and because of the advantage in cultivation, he wasn't any slower than Zhao Feng. However, Zhao Feng's lightning wings were too profound, and he had even comprehended the principles of space. Every time he dove down, he would use the force of his sacred body to increase his power. If he was in the air, Lu Tianfan wouldn't be able to touch Zhao Feng's lightning wings, and Zhao Feng would be able to find more openings. From the looks of it, it'll be very hard to beat Lu Tianfan without using my intent and eye bloodline. Zhao Feng used a lot of true yuan as he flew. He would definitely lose if the battle dragged on. The first thing he used was his ice-water bloodline, which was used for defense and healing. Right at this moment, the other bloodline power within Zhao Feng's body felt like it was about to move. Let's give it a try. Zhao Feng's ice-water armor turned into water and merged into his body. Wang! A bright red glass-like flame surrounded Zhao Feng's body. In this instant, Zhao Feng's entire body seemed to be bathed in flames. His entire body was bright red, and with the addition of his sacred lightning body, he seemed like a flaming demonic sovereign. Bam! The lightning wings on Zhao Feng's back fluttered as he charged down and punched out. Zhao Feng felt a carefree feeling in that punch. Before his fist even arrived, a blood-colored flame exploded and lit up everything within 100 yards. What kind of bloodline is that? Lu Tianfan's body felt like it was being burned and corroded. The bloodline power was unyielding and domineering. It could burn and explode, and was extremely corrosive to the flesh and blood of living beings. Zhao Feng's sacred body released this bloodline power to the maximum and poured it into his target's body. The wings of wind and thunder pushed this attack to the peak in terms of speed. A layer of water lightning surrounded Zhao Feng's body, and it was a combination of offense and defense. Boom! The two clashed once again, but it was different from before. This time, the figure that was pushed back was Lu Tianfan. Boom! Zhao Feng was like a flaming demonic sovereign. His body was covered in bright red flames, and his lightning wings flapped. The power of his fists and palms had reached a terrifying level. Every single strike of his caused blood-colored flames to explode. They were extremely powerful and violent, and then they burned and corroded. Purple flame protection. Lu Tianfan also became angry. A layer of dark purple flaming armor covered his body, and his offense and defense increased dramatically as he clashed with Zhao Feng. Inside the mystic realm, all the spectators held their breaths. What kind of bloodline is that red flame on Zhao Feng's body? It's so powerful. Everyone was shocked. In terms of bloodline, Zhao Feng was several levels higher than Lu Tianfan. The aura of his bloodline was as domineering as an emperor's. It's an imperial Dao bloodline. It's similar to the 81st ranked Blood Devil Sun bloodline, but it's even more unique and has the aura of an ancient bloodline. Could it be that the Blood Devil Sun bloodline has evolved in Zhao Feng's body, and his ranking has increased? King Lu Yin and another king discussed. Imperial Dao bloodlines were ranked 500th, and they included the continent zone and the surrounding oceans. These bloodlines were passed down from later generations, and they were separated from the 10,000 ancient races. Imperial Dao bloodline. Kong Feiling, who was on the eastern stage, felt her bloodline tremble. She finally understood why she could sense Zhao Feng before. She felt that Zhao Feng's Imperial Dao bloodline was more ancient than hers, and its explosive power was stronger. The battle continued. The life force within Lu Tianfan's body was being burned and corroded. Every round of attacks from Zhao Feng would take away some of his essence. Although Zhao Feng's true yuan was almost empty, Lu Tianfan's injuries were several times worse. Stop! King Lu Yun roared as a surge of magnificent power descended and stopped the battle. This battle ended in a draw. This Zhao Feng actually has a mutated Imperial Dao bloodline? If he was at the Great Origin Core Realm, or even the Peak Small Origin Core Realm, I would have been the one to lose. Lu Tianfan's heart beat faster. If Zhao Feng only had an Imperial Dao bloodline, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, his other two techniques, the Golden Koan Sacred Lightning Body and the 5 Elemental Wind Lightning technique, were also monstrous. After taking over the body and reviving, Zhao Feng's future would be brighter if he cultivated the best skills and unearthed a peak bloodline. I'll need to ask the Zhao clan about this Imperial Dao bloodline after I return, Zhao Feng murmured. Originally, Zhao Feng's parents had died early, and he had been an orphan since he was young. Several days later, the Divine Illusion trials had ended. Only 50 people were left in each arena. After that, this was the Divine Fantasy Trials overall competition. After many rounds of elimination, only 60 people remained. Zhao Feng didn't meet anyone that was his match in the overall Divine Illusion trials. The battle power he displayed was enough to rank him in the top 3 of the 10,000 Sacred Clan's core disciples. Almost all his opponents immediately surrendered. As long as he didn't meet Kong Feiling, Zhao Feng didn't need to worry at all. On the other hand, Lu Tianfan met Kong Feiling, who was ranked first in the 10,000 Sacred Clan. Chapter 789. Faced with Kong Feiling, Lu Tianfan was extremely cautious and solemn. The battle had only just begun. Purple Flame Protection. A dark purple flaming armor covered Lu Tianfan's body, and it released a surge of flames. Maybe because his opponent was too strong, but the battle power that Lu Tianfan displayed right from the start was even stronger than when he fought against Zhao Feng. Shua! With a flash of multicolored light, Kong Feiling arrived before Lu Tianfan with an elegant step. Although it seemed slow, it was actually faster than Zhao Feng's wings of wind and lightning. Wang! A rainbow-colored light feather phantom image rose from Kong Feiling's lily-white hand. It was like 100 flowers blooming, gorgeous and brilliant, as it slashed at Lu Tianfan. Who? After completing the purple flame protection, Lu Tianfan punched out with both fists and sent out 2 dark purple flaming dragons that roared. The heat was enough to instantly kill normal small origin core realms. From the looks of it, Lu Tianfan wasn't able to use his full battle power when fighting me. Zhao Feng murmured in a low tone. No matter what, Lu Tianfan's cultivation surpassed him by too much. Furthermore, Zhao Feng's speed and agility were also limiting factors. Crack! The sound of something shattering came from the arena. Lu Tianfan exclaimed as he retreated in a ruffled state. The purple flaming armor on his body was shattered by Kong Feiling's casual slash. Kong Feiling's movements were elegant and calm. With a gentle wave of her jade-like hand, beautiful and crystalline light feather phantoms appeared. The light flashed with a mysterious and noble aura, and it showed signs of becoming solid. Wah! Lu Tianfan spat out a mouthful of blood before he could even last 3 moves. The strength of the number 1 core disciple of the 10,000 sacred clan is indeed worthy of its name. Kong Feiling didn't even use her Imperial Dao bloodline, but Lu Tianfan couldn't fight back at all. The spectators broke out into chaos. Many disciples were stunned by Kong Feiling's strength. Not only did Kong Feiling not use her Imperial Dao bloodline, she didn't even use her full strength. Zhao Feng saw it even more clearly. This feeling was similar to when Zhao Feng fought Huang Yunhu. Let's end it. Lu Tianfan, your strength hasn't improved much either. Kong Feiling chuckled. As soon as he said this, his half-step king intent brought with it a formless magnificent power that suppressed the air. Bzzz. Kong Feiling's body was enveloped by the outline of a huge 7-colored feather. It extended hundreds of feet, and was beautiful and majestic. This is Kong Feiling's imperial bloodline. Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. Peng. Lu Tianfan's body was like a piece of paper as Kong Feiling pushed him through the air. He vomited blood, and was sent flying out of the arena. Kong Feiling wins, the referee announced. There was no suspense in this battle. If Kong Feiling had not gone easy on him, Lu Tianfan would not have been able to last 1 or 2 moves. Kong Feiling, ranked 298th on the royal roll. There was some relevant information in Zhao Feng's memory. After all, the 10,000 sacred clan was a 3-star power, and their head core disciple wasn't any weaker than the other 3-star powers. The weakest of the Imperial Roll geniuses were at the half-step Origin Core realm, or the Peak Great Origin Core realm. From this, one could guess how strong Luo Xun, who was ranked in the top 100, was. Within the Secret Realm arena, as time passed, more and more disciples were eliminated from the sect. From 200 to 150, from 150 to 100. The number of geniuses participating decreased. This meant that the chances of Zhao Feng and Kong Feiling meeting each other increased. According to the rules of the selection, the number of opponents that had not fought before would be closer. Finally, 2 days before the end of the selection, Zhao Feng and Kong Feiling ran into each other. I'm very interested in your true strength. Kong Feiling smiled faintly. Before the selection started, her half-step king intent felt like it had sunk into the ocean when she tried to test Zhao Feng. She felt that Zhao Feng's true strength wasn't revealed when he fought Lu Tianfan. I admit defeat. Zhao Feng casually glanced at Kong Feiling and the judge before jumping off the stage. This scene made Kong Feiling feel like she was choking, and she stomped her foot hard. The rest of the spectators were also startled. According to the rules, since Zhao Feng had the strength to become one of the top 3 core disciples of the 10,000 sacred clan, he should have exchanged a few blows with Kong Feiling. However, no one expected Zhao Feng to admit defeat so decisively. Within the secret realm, the 2 Void God Realm Kings also had regretful expressions. The 2 Void God Realm Kings could tell that Zhao Feng had some secrets that he probably didn't want to see. The more that was the case, the more curious they were about Zhao Feng. Let's see if you can't expose yourself after we enter the divine illusion dimension. Kong Feiling snickered coldly and walked off the arena in disappointment. In the 10,000 sacred clan, she was unrivaled among the younger generation. The only person she couldn't see through was Zhao Feng, which made her slightly interested. However, he didn't want to fight with her. This made her feel helpless and frustrated. Another 2 days later, the divine illusion trials ended. After more than 20 days of repeated eliminations, there were finally 60 absolute elite disciples who had been selected. Zhao Feng scanned the crowd, but he didn't see Senior Martial Sister Wan Rong. It was reasonable that Senior Martial Sister Wan hadn't passed the divine illusion trials, since she had just reached the True Lord rank. The lowest cultivation of the 60 disciples was at the peak True Lord rank, or half-step Origin Core realm. These disciples all had battle power, at least at the half-step Origin Core realm. Huang Yunhu and Senior Martial Brother Guang were also present. So, So, the disciples that had passed the trials all left the secret realm. Those that had been eliminated had left long ago. A while later, a total of 60 elite disciples appeared on the ancient mountain range. Junior Martial Brother Zhao, congratulations on passing the divine illusion trials. You must grasp this fortune. Senior Martial Sister Wan Rong was waiting on the mountain range. Although she wasn't in a good mood, her blessings for Zhao Feng came from the bottom of her heart. Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. Back then, in order to hide some of his secrets, he used a heart-controlling technique to make Senior Martial Sister Wan Rong have a good impression of him. Now Senior Martial Sister Wan Rong's impression of him was increasing day by day. After all, in her eyes, that handsome youth had risen and matured step by step, becoming a dazzling star in the eyes of tens of thousands of people. However, Senior Martial Sister Wan Rong knew that the distance between her and Zhao Feng was becoming bigger and bigger. There's still a month or so until the divine illusion dimension opens. Go back and consolidate your strength, and study the divine illusion dimension. The two kings said a few words in the air before disappearing. After passing the divine illusion trials, every disciple would receive a set of secret information regarding the divine illusion dimension. Zhao Feng also received this information. Zhao Feng couldn't help but shake his head in disappointment as he quickly scanned through the so-called secret information. It was obvious that this information was miles away from the one that Duke Nanfeng had given him in terms of both content and depth. Zhao Feng guessed that the disciples of kings and emperors would be able to obtain even more secret information. Zhao Feng had already learned everything about the divine illusion dimension from the Imperials. Just as Duke Nanfeng had said, people didn't even know 10% of the divine illusion dimension. There's still a month or so left. I should focus on raising my foundation, Zhao Feng murmured. After returning to his residence, Zhao Feng immediately opened the array and put up the seclusion token. For the next month or so, with sufficient resources, Zhao Feng focused on cultivation, and his cultivation was naturally progressing rapidly. 1 month later, Zhao Feng's cultivation had broken through to the middle stages of the small origin core realm. Of course, a lot of resources were used to increase his cultivation. Zhao Feng's 5 elemental wind lightning technique also became stronger. However, right now, his wind lightning technique was stuck at the peak 5th level and hadn't broken through to the 6th level yet. On the other hand, my cultivation is limiting the speed of my wind lightning technique. Zhao Feng murmured. If he had reached the Great Origin Core Realm, or the peak late-stage Small Origin Core Realm, his wind lightning technique might have broken through to the 6th level already. In this 1 month, Zhao Feng's cultivation of the Golden Koan Sacred Lightning Body didn't stop. After passing the divine illusion trials, Zhao Feng started to taste the benefits of having a strong physical body. If one's body was truly strong, they could ignore their opponent's cultivation and bloodline and crush them. The child demigod was like this back then. The child demigod's sacred body was able to suppress the Emperor of Death's body when he was only a king. On the other hand, Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body was even stronger than the Golden Koan sacred body. The sacred lightning body that Zhao Feng cultivated contained the element of lightning, and when it reached a certain level, everything that passed by would be turned into ashes by the power of lightning within his body. Zhao Feng didn't even need to do anything. Anyone that attacked him would be turned into ashes. In the future, when the 5 elemental wind lightning was completed, his sacred lightning body would be immune to all sorts of attacks from the 5 elements. Right now, Zhao Feng had only cultivated the water of wind lightning, so he had a certain amount of resistance against the elements of ice and water. If he also cultivated the wood of wind lightning and the fire of wind lightning, he would also have a certain amount of resistance against them. The sacred lightning body had the strongest resistance against the Tao of lightning, and it could even absorb the power of lightning. Back then, Lei Zhen from the 10,000 lightning sect was able to absorb Zhao Feng's wind lightning attacks. Once I cultivate the Golden Koan sacred lightning body to the late stages, my ability to face the God tribulation will be much stronger in the future. Zhao Feng was filled with hope and confidence towards the future. Time passed by quickly, The day when the divine illusion dimension would open was getting closer and closer. The last few days, Xiaofeng stopped cultivating and entered the ancient dream realm to absorb more heaven-earth yuan qi. The atavism of his body and bloodline was also slowly increasing. Over the past few days, the purity and awakening of Zhao Feng's imperial Dao bloodline were also increasing. On the night before the divine illusion dimension opened, within the 10,000 sacred clan, 100 elites of the clan were waiting quietly on a pitch-black stage. The divine illusion dimension is slowly merging with the land around the continent zone. The time of connection might be brought forward, or it might be delayed. The elites of the sects present discussed in low voices. Xiaofeng scanned over the 10,000 sacred clan, and there were 35 experts of the older generation. What was weird was that there was even a void god realm king among them. He was relatively young, only around 50 to 60 years old. Xiaofeng guessed that the 10,000 sacred clan had some method to send a void god realm king into the divine illusion dimension. Some of the clans, families, and imperials should have connected by now. Will be a day slower near the coast. Near the base of the stage, a few figures shrouded in magnificent power discussed in low voices. Chapter 790. Within a group of palaces floating above the clouds in the Great Gon Lord dynasty, Wang, a sparkling white passageway suddenly appeared on a huge golden-orange disk. It was faintly discernible, and it seemed to be somewhere between solid and nothingness. The divine illusion dimension has successfully connected. A powerful voice sounded across heaven and earth, and even the nearby kings and emperors felt their hearts shake. First, Xianyuan 1. A handsome young man appeared in front of the sparkling white passageway. He looked cultured and somewhat bashful. However, none of the several hundred disciples and elites of Sky Suspension Palace dared to underestimate him. Their eyes were filled with respect and fear. Xianyuan 1, as well as the male and female disciples behind him, were all void god realm kings. Brothers and sisters, I'll be going first. Xianyuan 1 was refined and courteous, his smile somewhat bashful as he cupped his fists and bowed to everyone. Master, I won't disappoint you. Finally, he glanced at the elder whose cultivation was at least at the demigod level, but he seemed like a piece of dead wood. The elder's aura was extremely normal, as if he was immortal. Boom! When Xianyuan 1 stepped into the pathway, space trembled, and cracks started to appear in the white light. Xianyuan 1 isn't a normal king. He's already surpassed the limits of the pathway. Any other 3-star power probably wouldn't dare to try this. Some kings and emperors around the golden orange disk discussed in private. Under normal circumstances, if Xianyuan 1 forcefully entered the pathway, he would be torn into countless pieces by the power of space. Right at this critical moment, Wang, a strange piece of jade on Xianyuan 1's body, gave off a pure white ripple of light. The tearing power of the shattered space immediately melted the moment it touched him. Ancient God Weapon Fragment. A series of exclamations came from the vicinity of the giant disk. Ancient God weapons were the domain of gods. The divine illusion dimension was a dimension left behind by ancient God Hua. Only the power of gods could deal with gods. Shua. Xianyuan 1 used the protection of the ancient God Weapon Fragment and disappeared at the end of the pathway. There's a weakness to those who teleport in, which is that they'll be teleported to a random corner of the divine illusion dimension. A void god realm emperor murmured. Swoosh. The male and female void god realm kings behind Xianyuan 1 also used their own methods to enter the divine illusion dimension. Great Qian Dynasty Duanmu family. Above a sparkling blue lake, there was a dazzling green passageway. Yufei, are you ready? The fortune and danger in the divine illusion dimension are much greater than the demigod Forgotten Garden, Duanmu Qing said with a smile. At the bottom of the jade green passageway, there was a group of family disciples and elites. The person in the lead was a young woman that was elegant like a celestial. Her skin was snow white like jade and suffused with a faint luster, and she was like a lifelike and exquisitely carved celestial jade sculpture. I'm ready. Zhao Yufei smiled sweetly. She was so beautiful that everyone was stunned. She slowly walked towards the jade green passage. The jade green passageway was as stable as ever, without any tremors or abnormalities. Unbelievable. He's only a void god realm king, yet he can cross the tunnel so easily. This girl really has the bloodline of the spirit race. There's hope for our Duanmu family to rise again. Some of the older members of the Duanmu family had excited expressions. With the Duanmu family's strength, they could only send a normal king in. However, Zhao Yufei's situation saved them a spot. The spirit race's affinity with heaven and earth is unparalleled. I'll be able to become an emperor soon. Duanmu Qing sent off Zhao Yufei's figure with his eyes, entrusting some kind of emotion to her. Song Ocean, true martial sacred land. On the 10,000 ancient sacred peak, there were 200 to 300 disciples and elites from the mystic true sacred clan and Thousand Darkness sacred clan. We'll be able to connect later than the continent zone. We'll be able to connect in a couple more days. The combined forces of our 2 3-star sects can barely send Nan Gongxing and Mengxi, 2 king geniuses. The upper echelon of the 2 sects discussed in low tones. The divine illusion dimension's range was extremely wide. It wasn't just the continent zone that could connect. As long as the forces nearby were strong enough, they could connect as well. However, due to the distance, only a few 3-star sects had the ability to connect to the divine illusion dimension. On the continent zone's side, some 2-star sects could connect as well. It could be said that those that could enter the divine illusion dimension were all elites from the continent zone and the nearby forces. There were almost no inheritances or secret realms that could be compared to the divine illusion dimension. On the black stage of the 10,000 sacred clan, the disciples and the elites of the older generation were all waiting for him. Some of the forces from the continent zone might have already connected, but we'll have to wait for a bit. Lu Tianfan smiled as he stood next to Zhao Feng. The two of them had fought to a draw in the divine illusion trials. Not only was Lu Tianfan not angry, he even took the initiative to become friends with Zhao Feng. Lu Tianfan's calmness made Zhao Feng have a good impression of him, and he learned a bit about the Lord dynasties from him. The geniuses and elites of the Great Gon Lord dynasty, the Dark Moon Lord dynasty, and the nearby 4-star sects will all enter the divine illusion dimension. Lu Tianfan sighed. The weakest force that connected to the divine illusion dimension was a 2-star power, or a 2-star force. How small was the 10,000 sacred clan compared to the other super forces? Zhao Feng realized how grand the divine illusion dimension was. In comparison, the inheritances and secret realms he had entered before were like playing house. Before connecting to the divine illusion dimension, a king elder from the 10,000 sacred clan told everyone what to take note of. First, there were some dangers within the divine illusion dimension. Next, don't offend the 3-star sects and the forces above them, such as the Imperials, the 8 big families, and the 4-star sections. The king warned solemnly. After all, the 10,000 sacred clan wasn't a 3-star force anymore. Firstly, the strength of the elites of 3-star, and even 4-star forces, wasn't something that 2-star forces could compare to. Even if they were at the same cultivation, there would be a huge difference in strength. Taking a step back, if they weren't careful and killed the elites of the Imperials or 4-star forces, it would be a disaster for the 10,000 sacred clan. Of course, 3-star and 4-star forces aren't the minority. Most of you will meet 2-star forces in the divine illusion dimension. The king paused. 3-star forces were extremely rare even in the Lord dynasty. As for 4-star forces, the chances of meeting them in the divine illusion dimension were extremely small. About a day had passed. A wisp of strange and obscure spatial fluctuation appeared on the pitch-black pedestal. If it weren't for the fact that Zhao Feng's senses were extremely strong, he might not have been able to sense it. We can connect now. The hearts of the kings from the 10,000 sacred clan shook. Immediately after, the array opened, and a faint golden pathway appeared on the black stage that seemed to lead to the other side of space. Yinhao, get ready. Several void god realm kings and an emperor looked toward the youth at the front. Yinhao was a special person from the older generation. The divine illusion trials of the 10,000 sacred clan were split into the older generation and the younger generation. Those under 50 years of age were the younger generation. Those over 50 years of age were the older generation. This Yunhao happened to be 50 or 60 years old, but he had the cultivation of a void god realm king. It was obvious that the 10,000 sacred clan wanted to raise him. Senior Yunhao, please take care of me. On the stage, some of the younger disciples were extremely respectful towards Yunhao. Kong Feiling and Yunhao represented the two strongest geniuses of the 10,000 sacred clan. In reality, Kong Feiling had an imperial Dao bloodline, so her true strength wasn't much different from a void god realm king. The first to enter was Yunhao. At this moment, some of the kings and elders of the clan watched nervously. Yunhao took a deep breath and stepped into the pale gold passageway. Wang boom! As soon as he stepped in, the faint golden pathway started to become unstable. Stabilize the array. One void god realm emperor and 8 kings teamed up near the black stage. Only then did the golden passageway stabilize a little. Cold sweat appeared on Yunhao's forehead, and he immediately sped up into the faint golden pathway. Boom! His figure was about to disappear at the end of the faint golden pathway. The 8 kings and 1 void god realm emperor's faces were pale white, and they seemed to have expended a lot of yuan qi, just as everyone thought that Yunhao was about to succeed. Arg! Yunhao let out a miserable shriek as a spatial crack suddenly appeared and split him into countless pieces. The spatial crack was like a spider web, and it radiated a forbidden aura. The elders and disciples of the 10,000 sacred clan were all stunned and took in cold breaths. The black stage was deathly silent for a long time. We failed. Yunhao's luck is too bad. After all, the 10,000 sacred clan isn't a 3-star power anymore. Sighs and sighs of regret were left behind. The higher one's cultivation, the lower the success rate. Unless the clan was extremely strong, or had a unique bloodline like the spiritual race, or someone like Nan Gongxing's spatial spiritual body, which was extremely compatible with space, the success rate would increase. A long time later, on the pitch-black platform, the formation stabilized and continued to transmit. The second person was Kong Feiling. Kong Feiling only had the cultivation of a half-step king, so she disappeared at the end of the pathway. Luckily, Kong Feiling is fine. Only then did the experts of the sects heave a sigh of relief. Without a doubt, Kong Feiling had an imperial Dao bloodline, so her talent was even higher. Shwa, shwa, shwa. The disciples and elites of the clan disappeared at the end of the pathway. After that, Yunhao's tragedy didn't happen again. At a certain moment, it was Zhao Feng's turn to enter the pathway. The strength of my soul isn't simple. Zhao Feng was slightly worried. He was only at the middle stages of the small origin core realm, so there was nothing to worry about. However, the capacity of the pathway was related to the power of the soul. Shua. Zhao Feng concealed his power and carefully stepped onto the pathway. However, halfway there, Zhao Feng felt a slight tremor in the passage, and his heart jumped to his throat. Chapter 791. After reaching the Void God realm, one's soul would change. It wasn't a simple form of nothingness. It contained great power. Regardless of whether it was the physical body or the soul, they were all carried by space. Any one of them would exceed the limit of space if they reached a certain level. The same logic applied to the passage in front of him. The strength of my soul is on par with normal Void God realm kings, and it might even be slightly stronger. Zhao Feng felt the passage tremble slightly. This trembling exceeded Kong Feiling's, and it was even close to Yunhao's, who had been torn apart by the spatial cracks. Could it be that he would follow in Yunhao's footsteps? Zhao Feng's heart clenched. In this moment of danger, Zhao Feng was even prepared to use his God's Eye again. No matter what, staying alive was the most important thing. Luckily, the trembling was only close to Yunhao's level, but it wasn't as strong as Yunhao's. The passage's feedback to the physical dimension was stronger. The crystal core within a Void God realm king's body could form a dimension of true yuan, which was extremely powerful. However, Zhao Feng's true yuan cultivation had stopped at the middle stages of the small origin core realm. At this moment in time, Zhao Feng felt lucky that his cultivation wasn't that high. In reality, in some forces, some elites would purposely not break through to the Void God realm in order to deal with the Divine Illusion dimension. Once they entered the Divine Illusion dimension, they would immediately break through. In this way, the risk would be reduced to the minimum. Shua. When Zhao Feng appeared, he felt his body and soul become heavy. An ancient and boundless pressure surged over. This was the aura of the ancient era and ancient era. When he appeared, Zhao Feng felt as if he had entered the ancient dream realm. The pressure here wasn't just one level higher than in the demigod Forgotten Garden. The entire dimension was dark, but it didn't affect one's vision too much. In his field of vision, there was an endless stretch of yellow desert, sand and dust howling in the air. Shua, shua, shua. Several figures appeared next to Zhao Feng. They were all disciples and older elites of the 10,000 Sacred Clan. A while later, a total of 99 people appeared in this strange dimension. Everyone gather. Under the instructions of a few older elites, Kong Failing began to gather the members. When the Divine Illusion dimension connected, people from the same area would be teleported to a similar location. For example, the geniuses that entered from the 10,000 Sacred Clan would appear at the same place in the Divine Illusion dimension. All of the other factions in the Tianfeng Great Island Zone were relatively close to this area. However, there were only a few forces in the Great Island Zone that could connect to the Divine Illusion dimension, including the Duke's Palace. Old Fei, where are we in the Divine Illusion dimension? Kong Failing asked. Currently, her strength was probably one of the best in the group. But in terms of experience, Kong Failing was not as experienced as some of the older elites. The elder Fei she asked about was an old man in his 70s who held a spinning staff in his hand. This old Fei was the most experienced and had entered the Divine Illusion dimension twice before. Although he didn't gain much, he had survived and accumulated a lot of experience. We can't confirm the exact location yet. The Divine Illusion dimension is too big, and it's possible that we've entered an unknown area. Old Fei's face was filled with wrinkles. His cultivation had also reached the half-step king realm, and he could easily defeat those of the same cultivation. Next, the group from the 10,000 Sacred Clan started to explore the nearby area. The pressure in the Divine Illusion dimension was very strong, and all senses were suppressed. Those below the Void God realm would find it hard to fly. Great Origin Core realms and half-step kings could only fly for a short time. Therefore, it was very difficult for outsiders to explore this dimension. The desert in front of them was filled with yellow dirt, and it was impossible to see the end. Only a while later, in the distance, the disciples who were exploring the area started fighting with the unknown life forms. Sung, sung, sung. Some elites from the 10,000 Sacred Clan heard the news and went over to help. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye looked into the distance. He saw several large sharp-toothed rats with red eyes, fighting with the disciples of the 10,000 Sacred Clan. The bodies of these sharp-toothed rats were extremely tough, and normal True Lord rank attacks wouldn't be able to injure them. This lasted until an elder at the Origin Core realm arrived and killed one of the sharp-toothed rats with a palm. The other sharp-toothed rats screamed in panic as they hid in the nearby caves. These sharp-toothed rats are ancient species, and their fur and teeth are extremely rare. The elder at the Origin Core realm said with joy. After that, the elites of the 10,000 Sacred Clan met some rat-type life forms. These explorers were in groups of 3 to 5, and each group had a sovereign lord, so there was no danger. Zhao Feng and Lu Tianfan's group also met a battle. Zhao Feng suddenly sensed something and couldn't help but descend. Watch out! Lu Tianfan let out a loud roar, and a surging dark purple halo of light blasted into the yellow sand and stones below. Boom! Several members of this small team borrowed the force of the impact to fly back several hundred feet. In the next instant, a cold screech sounded from the sand, and a large black scorpion broke out of the ground. The large black scorpion was dozens of yards long, and its body seemed to be made of metal. Its claws and tail flashed with a cold and poisonous light. Si. Everyone couldn't help but take in a cold breath. The attack just now only left some faint marks on the surface of the black scorpion's metallic shell. Watch out for the scorpion's poison. Lu Tianfan took out an earth-grade-long saber and slashed toward the large black scorpion. Dang! This slash was actually blocked by the giant black scorpion's pincers. Pung! A powerful force even forced Lu Tianfan to take a few steps back. If it was a one-on-one fight, Lu Tianfan's chances of winning were very small, and his best choice would be to run. However, teams usually worked together in the divine illusion dimension. Only some peak elites that had reached the void god realm had the right to move alone. Ah! Zhao Feng exclaimed as a layer of silver-blue metal appeared around him, and he lightly punched out. Boom! An invisible surge of physical force landed on the large black scorpion. This surge of physical force was enough to make normal small origin core realms cough out blood. However, the black scorpion's body and blood were extremely strong, and its speed was restricted in just a flash. However, that wasn't all Zhao Feng had. He pointed out with his finger, and wisps of water of wind lightning turned into a fan-shaped shockwave that swept across the large black scorpion. Shoo! A numbing sensation once again restricted the large black scorpion. Bam! Bam! Combining his physical force and the water of wind lightning, Zhao Feng restricted the large black scorpion from the side. His speed, as well as his essence, were extremely high. The black scorpion couldn't even hit Zhao Feng. 10 breaths later, Zhao Feng and Lu Tianfan were the main force, and they forced the black scorpion to retreat. However, the black scorpion's defense was extremely strong, and it wasn't heavily injured. Soon several Primal Core Realm seniors arrived. Their powerful combat experience easily suppressed the black scorpion. The older the wiser. Lu Tianfan sighed. The experts of the older generation were mostly at the Great Origin Core Realm, and they were extremely experienced in battle. A while later, the black scorpion was surrounded, and it didn't even have a chance to escape with the help of the older elites. The battle power of these older elites is very strong. Zhao Feng nodded his head. He estimated that the 60 or so juniors combined wouldn't be a match for the 30 or so seniors. In the boundless desert, the group from the 10,000 Sacred Clan started to advance in an orderly manner. Some experts even took out their mounts. Land spiritual beasts were more suitable in the desert. Due to the pressure of space and the sandstorm, flying spiritual beasts weren't suitable. Therefore, Zhao Feng didn't summon the Yiming bird right now. He started to see if there were any suitable mounts in the desert. Half a day later, the sky above the desert was filled with dark clouds, and it was strangely calm. At this moment, they didn't meet any other life forms. Wait! Elder Fei, who seemed like an advisor, suddenly waved his hand. The weather isn't looking good. I've lived in the desert before when I was on a mission. If I'm not wrong, a giant sandstorm is about to arrive. Old Fei's eyebrows furrowed. Sandstorm? The expressions of the elites of the 10,000 Sacred Clan changed dramatically. If it was in the outside world, they wouldn't put normal sandstorms in their eyes. However, the divine illusion dimension was extremely high, and they didn't even have the ability to fly. The power of the natural disasters here couldn't be underestimated. At this moment, the powerful life forms in the desert were nowhere to be seen. Old Fei, what should we do? Kong Failing asked. Without a suitable place to hide, it'll be very hard for us to avoid the sandstorm. The only way is to find a high spot and set up an array, Old Fei said in a solemn tone. His suggestion was immediately agreed upon. They found a high spot and combined their strength to quickly construct a temporary defensive formation. Sung, sung, sung. The disciples of the 10,000 Sacred Clan started to move. A while later, the team found a relatively high Gobi mountain and quickly set up a defensive formation. Under Old Fei's command, they soon set up an earth elemental array. Gradually, a glittering yellow stone formation appeared and formed a large stone house, protecting everyone inside. An hour later, the sky became darker, and the sandstorm engulfed everything in sight. Wang! The stone array that everyone was in started to tremble, and its light started to dim. Everyone quickly put in primal crystal stones and true yuan. The power of this sandstorm is stronger than we imagined. Those below the half-step void god realm will find it hard to survive in the sandstorm. Old Faye sighed. Everyone's faces were filled with shock. Just the natural disasters in the divine illusion dimension were already so powerful. If it was just one or two elites, they wouldn't be able to move. Zhao Feng sat cross-legged in the center of the Earth stone array, his eyes closed as he silently cultivated. The divine illusion dimension would only open for a few months every time, and the longest time would be half a year. Although this dimension was abandoned by a god, the heaven-earth yuan qi here was much stronger than the continent zone. Most importantly, there were many resources that were rare in the outside world. However, the 10,000 sacred clans' luck wasn't good. The area they connected to was the desert. This sandstorm lasted for an entire day and night. At a certain moment, the sandstorm started to die down. Everyone was on a high mountain, but they were still engulfed by the sand. Bam! Bam! Some of the older generation experts took the lead to disperse the sand and dust outside the earthen formation, creating a passageway. After seeing the light of day again, everyone gazed at their surroundings, all of them absent-mindedly and in disbelief. They felt as if the blue sea had turned into mulberry fields. Chapter 792. On the highlands on the mountain, everyone looked around and was dazed. Even Zhao Feng was no exception. After a disastrous sandstorm, the highlands that the members of the 10,000 sacred clan were on were like a lone mountain that stood in the bottomless abyss. The sudden visual sense of desolation and loneliness was horrifying. The yellow sand of the Gobi Desert was swept away by the huge sandstorm, revealing a huge basin that looked like an abyss. The wind blew over, and the disciples of the 10,000 sacred clan hiccuped. Look, that's... The gazes of some of the clan members locked onto the bottomless abyss. They could faintly see the outline of some buildings. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye's penetration was even stronger. He could already see the top of some buildings under the sandstorm. Furthermore, under the sand and dust, it was no longer a sandy desert, but a layer of dark brown soil. Could it be? Zhao Feng had a guess, and his god's spiritual eye could see even deeper. At the same time, the members of the 10,000 sacred clan all released their spiritual senses and inspected the bottomless abyss below. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Kong Feiling and Old Fei both had the cultivation of a half-step king, and they immediately flew out. Soon, the members of the group all came down and started to explore. There's an entrance here, someone exclaimed and attracted everyone's attention. They saw a few disciples standing in front of a palace building. The building went straight underground, and they could vaguely see a long and wide flight of stairs. The passageway was 20 yards tall, and it gave off an ancient aura. Underground passageway? In the past, when the divine illusion dimension opened, there were underground cities and even marine worlds. Old Fei's eyes twinkled. However, everyone's spiritual sense was greatly restricted in the divine illusion dimension. The soil in this place, including the buildings, had a powerful isolation effect on the senses. Only Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye could see what was below. It should be an underground city, Zhao Feng said. Everyone immediately agreed with this idea. This section of the palace wall directly extended underground. The soil here had a certain amount of moisture, and some small insects could be seen. This place won't be covered by sand for a while. Everyone started discussing. In the end, most people agreed to explore the underground city. Following the long and wide steps, everyone went underground. In the underground passage, there were some illuminating night pearls that emitted a faint glow. On the way, in the depths of the underground city, roars and tearing sounds could be heard from time to time. The atmosphere was tense. After a long walk, they finally reached the end of the stairs. They found themselves in a vast underground city. Beneath their feet was a dark green stone floor, and they were surrounded by man-made hard stone walls. The materials in the underground city were extremely tough. Adding on the fact that the divine illusion dimension restricted one's strength, a full-powered attack from a true lord rank could only leave a small mark on the ground. Perhaps due to the lack of maintenance, Many areas of the underground city were dark. However, it was not difficult to see that this underground city was well equipped with all kinds of facilities. Plazas, fountains, pavilions, shops, houses, and mansions were all available. It was definitely not inferior to the cities on the surface. Elder Fei, I sense a surge of pure origin energy fluctuation coming from the depths of the underground city. Kong Feiling, who was dressed in a gorgeous robe, closed her beautiful eyes slightly. Among everyone present, she was the strongest in terms of cultivation and bloodline. With her reminder, everyone raised their senses and started to sense. That's right. Old Fei, the other 2 half-step void god realms, and several peak great origin core realms all felt the same. Zhao Feng's left eye focused in a certain direction and revealed a weird expression. Disturbance of Yuan Qi? That's not all. Zhao Feng's soul was the strongest in the group, and with the addition of his god's spiritual eye, he could sense even more clearly. Meow meow. The little thieving cat appeared on his shoulder and threw a few bronze coins into the air. Soon, with Old Fei and a few older generation experts leading the way, Kong Feiling followed closely behind and headed towards the location of the Yuan Qi fluctuation. However, the journey wasn't peaceful. Before he had even walked 1,000 feet, a pair of dark green eyes appeared in the dark alley ahead, accompanied by howls that sounded like wolves but weren't wolves. Sung. With a flash of lightning, more than a dozen wolf-headed humanoid beings leapt over from the corner. Watch out. It's a wolfman. Old Fei exclaimed. The battle was about to start. The wolfman's senses weren't affected by the darkness, and their movements were extremely fast. Before the disciples could react, the wolfmen had already charged into the group. Luckily, the elites of the older generation weren't weak, and Old Fei and company quickly killed 2 or 3 wolfmen. Old Fei and the others seemed to have a certain understanding of a foreign race like the werewolves. However, some disciples didn't have as much experience. Arg, one of the disciples at the half-step origin core realm, howled in pain as his shoulder was ripped open by the wolfman's claws. The wolfmen were extremely fast, and their claws were sharp. In a dark environment, they would be able to display more of their strength. Sung, sung, sung. The wolfmen left behind a few corpses after a round of attacks before quickly disappearing into the complicated underground city. The wolfmen are extremely cunning and specialize in teamwork and ambushes. That was probably just a probing attack. Old Fei warned. The battle just now was just a round of testing by the werewolves. The group from the 10,000 Sacred Clan continued to advance in an orderly fashion. In the team, there were some who specialized in defense, and there were also a few doctors who specialized in healing. Due to the uniqueness of their cultivation techniques, there were also some who specialized in assassination and scouting. Such a group could greatly increase their chances of survival in unknown environments. Half the time it took to make tea later, the wolf howls came again. In the dark underground city nearby, hundreds of pairs of green eyes appeared, making people shudder. Be careful and prepare for battle. There's several hundred wolfmen this time. Old Fei's heart shook. Many of the wolfmen that appeared this time held weapons, and even wore armor. In comparison, the wolfmen in front of them were more elite. The several hundred wolfmen surrounded the area. Roar! The leader of the wolfmen walked out. His body was covered in golden brown fur, and he held a large spear in his hand. Meow meow! The little thieving cat on his shoulder gestured at Zhao Feng, as if it was translating something. Robbery. They want us to leave behind all our belongings, and our women. It was weird, but everyone could understand what the little thieving cat was doing. Everyone was slightly surprised. Although the underground city was chaotic, it had its own rules of survival. Tell them that we're the robbers. Kong Feiling snickered coldly. Meow meow. The little thieving cat waved its paw and gestured at the wolfman leader. Roar! The wolfmen started to howl. The wolfman leader was enraged, and he waved his spear and gave the order to attack. Boom! The wolfman leader's spear created a dark green whirlwind that charged toward the group from the 10,000 Sacred Clan and started to explode. This casual slash was comparable to the attack of a half-step king. Let me! Kong Feiling exclaimed. and rainbow-colored feathers that looked like flower petals appeared on her body. Boom! Kong Failing and the Wolfman leader clashed head-on, and the shockwave pushed back the nearby people. Although the Wolfman's bloodline wasn't as strong as Kong Failing's, he was extremely strong and had a strong defense. At the same time, several hundred Wolfmen charged into the group from the 10,000 Sacred Clan. In terms of numbers, the Wolfmen had a big advantage. However, the geniuses within the 10,000 Sacred Clan weren't simple either. Among them was an elder at the Great Origin Core realm, who specialized in the Tao of the Soul. He caused the Wolfmen to become chaotic, and they started killing each other. Zhao Feng circulated his golden koan sacred lightning body, and wasn't afraid of close combat. The Wolfmen that got close were either sent flying or crushed. Meow meow. The little thieving cat ran around happily in the Wolfmen group. It didn't kill the Wolfmen. It just used its claws to make them dizzy. Capture the leader first. Old Fei roared after stabilizing the situation, and attacked the Wolfman leader from the side. Wah! The Wolfman leader spat out a mouthful of blood. Kong Failing had started to suppress the Wolfman after figuring out its strengths and weaknesses. But Old Fei's addition forced it to retreat. Roar! Seeing that the situation wasn't good, the Wolfman leader howled and retreated with the Wolfmen. These non-humans aren't dumb. The Wolfmen specialize in ambushing and bullying with numbers. Once the opponent is too strong, they will retreat. Old Fei let out a long breath. After all, there were several hundred Wolfmen. If they didn't care about the price, the 10,000 Sacred Clans group would suffer heavy casualties. Old Fei, I searched the soul of one of the Wolfmen captains. The Great Origin Core Realm Elder, that specialized in the Tao of the Soul, walked over. Soon, he drew out a map of the nearby area. At the same time, a map of the underground city and the nearby areas also appeared in Zhao Feng's mind. So, in the chaos just now, Zhao Feng had calmly completed the soul-searching art. The center of the Yuan Qi disturbance should be the forbidden ground of the underground city, the evil god's altar. According to this Wolfman's memories, the evil god's altar seems to have a mysterious power that can increase one's strength. At some point in time, a miracle even appeared there. Old Fei and company discussed in a low tone. The evil god was the god that all the races in the underground city worshipped. To reach the evil god's altar, we have to pass through the territory of the Wolfmen, Lizardmen, and Scorpionmen. The strongest is the Scorpionmen. Old Fei's eyebrows furrowed as he looked at Kong Failing. The evil god's altar definitely had some sort of secret or fortune. However, from the looks of it, they would meet some other powerful non-humans. The Lizardmen and Scorpionmen behind them were even stronger. I feel that the evil god's altar has an unusual power. Kong Failing decided to give it a try. Her Imperial Tao bloodline was becoming more and more sensitive to the power coming from the evil god's altar. Okay, everyone get ready. The Lizardmen usually specialize in spitting fire. Those with water-type techniques meet up here. Old Fei ordered. Speaking of water-type techniques, Zhao Feng had the ice water bloodline and the water of wind lightning. Without needing to say anything, Zhao Feng didn't have any objections to being sent to the outer area of the group. In the past he was a lone wolf, but today, he had seen the power of a group. They had passed through many difficulties and increased their survivability. Now isn't the time to go alone, Zhao Feng calculated in his heart. The group advanced forward, and the territory of the Wolfmen didn't face any large-scale attacks. An hour later, pu, the sound of fire being shot spread out, as well as the shouting and fighting of humans. Which faction are they from? They are actually ahead of us. Old Fei was solemn. Chapter 793. The area in front of them was the territory of the Lizardmen. Before they even got close, a fiery aura swept over. At this moment, a group of 50 to 60 people was fighting with the Lizardmen. The Lizardmen were even bigger than the werewolves. They had thick skin and could spit out poisonous fire. Ding! Boom! Half-step origin core realm attacks from the humans weren't able to do any real damage to the Lizardmen. However, The lizardmen's poisonous fire was extremely troublesome. Even if one didn't die from it, they would lose a layer of skin. There was a purple-robed youth in the human group, and he was a half-step king. There were also 2 half-step kings in the older generation. This group's overall strength and numbers were slightly weaker than the 10,000 sacred clans. So it's the Purple Sun Palace from the Big Island Zone. Old Fei let out a breath and squinted his eyes. The Purple Sun Palace was a 2-star sect, and it was also near the Tianfeng Great Island Zone. According to the Divine Illusion Dimension's characteristics, the forces that were nearby would also be nearby. Therefore, the appearance of the Purple Sun Palace was completely reasonable. What Old Fei was worried about was meeting a 3-star sect or some other force. Or perhaps a lone Void God Realm King would be hard to deal with. Fellow Taoists of the 10,000 Sacred Clan, our goal is the same. Come and lend us a hand. The disciples and elites of the Purple Sun Palace started to fight. These lizard men had coarse skin and thick flesh, and the poisonous flames they spat out were a headache. Let's go together and break through the lizardmen's territory. Old Fei didn't hesitate. The relationship between the 10,000 Sacred Clan and the Purple Sun Palace wasn't that good in the Big Island Zone. However, now that they were facing the non-humans and searching for fortune together, they could reduce the number of casualties. The addition of the 10,000 Sacred Clan greatly reduced the pressure on the Purple Sun Palace. Water-type attacks were more effective against the lizard men. Zhao Feng, who had the Water of Wind Lightning, was obviously one of the first to attack. Bam! 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 Zhao Feng waved his hand, and waves of water and lightning slashed toward the nearby lizard men. The power of the peak 5th level of the 5 elemental wind lightning technique wasn't simple. Zhao Feng's attack struck the lizardmen's vitals. Most of the lizard men were instantly killed by Zhao Feng without being able to resist at all. This kid's water lightning power is actually so powerful that it seems to be a great counter to the lizard men. Some of the older generation experts couldn't help but exclaim. Zhao Feng's speed and movement techniques could be said to be stunning. Those clumsy lizard men couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. Of course. As for the half-step king warriors, Zhao Feng would only be able to hold them back from the side at most, and would not be the main force. Thank you everyone. The Purple Sun Palace's top disciple, the purple-robed youth, quickly expressed his gratitude. His gaze lingered on Kong Feiling, Zhao Feng, and the others for a moment. Next, the teams from the 2-star sects teamed up and started attacking the lizardmen's territory. The lizardmen aren't fast, so we don't have to fight them. All we need to do is carve out a bloody path. Old Fei suggested. The 2 teams agreed to this suggestion. The lizard men had thick skin and flesh, and if they fought them one by one, they would die of exhaustion. Not only did the lizard men have a large number, they weren't like the werewolves, who knew when to retreat and would definitely fight to the end. The werewolves were relatively smart, and if they couldn't win they would retreat. Kill. The 2 teams opened up a path at the front. The 2 wings were guarded by some flame path experts with strong fire resistance. Zhao Feng and the others with nimble movement techniques that could counter the lizard men stayed behind to fight. An hour later, the 2 teams successfully carved out a bloody path in the lizardmen's territory. Everyone let out a long breath. The lizard men were indeed troublesome to deal with. At this moment, the fluctuation of yuan qi from the depths of the underground city became stronger. That energy fluctuation had a strange, bewitching effect on living beings. Evil God's Altar. Zhao Feng's left eye focused on the deepest area of the underground city. With the help of the god's spiritual eye, he had many guesses and analyses about the source of this energy. Zhao Feng's Imperial Dao bloodline seemed to be excited by this energy. On the other hand, his ice and water bloodline didn't react. Everyone prepare yourselves. The strongest Scorpionman is next. Old Fei exclaimed. The Scorpionman's offense, defense, and speed were all powerful. Furthermore, their attacks contained the element of poison. Before he got close, he felt a dark and oppressive aura coming from the Scorpion men. For some reason, Zhao Feng suddenly thought of the mutated scorpion he had subdued in the Purple Saint ruins. An aura similar to that of an ancient scorpion came from the Scorpionman's territory. Si. An ugly creature with a scorpion tail and a human body suddenly jumped out from a dark corner and slashed over with its sharp pincers. This was a scorpion man that had been left behind. Because the scorpion men were individually strong, they didn't have a strong sense of teamwork like the werewolves. Ding ding pung. 5 to 6 disciples and older elites attacked at the same time and forced the scorpion man back. Don't chase. The scorpion man flew into a rage and waved its tail, piercing through the heart of a disciple that was chasing after it. Arg. The Origin Core Realm disciple screamed and died on the spot. The experts of the two forces couldn't help but take in a cold breath. Zhao Feng found that the scorpionman's shell seemed to be made of black metal, and it wasn't damaged at all. The scorpion man was extremely fast and had many ways of attacking. Its pincers, fangs, and tail were all lethal attacks. It could be said that this race was almost perfect, apart from its ugliness. Those that cultivate the Tao of Fire, meet up ahead. Old Fei ordered. Comparatively speaking, the scorpion men weren't as immune to fire elemental attacks. Boom! Boom! Several experts that cultivated the Tao of Fire teamed up and unleashed a powerful flame that enveloped the scorpion man, causing it to scream. A few breaths later, the scorpion man was burned to ashes. The leaders of the 10,000 Sacred Clan and Purple Sun Palace had solemn expressions. This was because this was just one scorpion man. As they went deeper, a cold aura came from the scorpion man's territory. The auras of these scorpion men were stronger than the one from before. The two teams cooperated with each other and fought the scorpion men one after another. There were quite a few scorpion men in their territory. Luckily, there weren't hundreds of scorpion men attacking together. Otherwise, the two teams wouldn't stand a chance at all. At a certain moment, a tall but ugly female scorpion man appeared among the scorpion men in front of them. The intent of a half-step void god realm appeared from her body, and her speed and offense reached a terrifying level. The two half-step void god realms from the Purple Sun Palace couldn't even touch her. Arg! Screams sounded from the crowd. Ding! Bam! Some attacks barely landed on the female scorpion man, but sparks flew from her pitch-black metal armor. But it wasn't damaged at all. Apart from her soul, her battle power is comparable to a void god realm king. Zhao Feng couldn't help but click his tongue. The female scorpionman's offense, speed, and defense were all top tier. Adding on the deadly scorpion venom, normal half-step void god realms could be instantly killed. Arg! An elder at the Great Origin Core Realm was barely scratched by the scorpionman's pincers, and he soon died. Anyone below the Void God Realm would definitely die if they were hit by this venom. At this moment, even old Fei, who was extremely experienced, felt troubled. Apart from the female scorpion man, there were another 20 or so powerful scorpion men nearby, and they were all at least at the Great Origin Core Realm, or on par with half-step Void God Realms. Just as everyone was in a tough battle, two magnificent powers appeared from the center of the scorpionman's territory. One of them was evil and wicked, and it was several times stronger than the female scorpionman's. The other was ethereal and unfathomable. Boom! Boom! The two king auras clashed in the depths of the scorpionman's territory, and they attracted more scorpion men. Could there be other kings here as well? The expressions of the 10,000 Sacred Clan and the Purple Sun Palace were wary. At this moment, the female scorpion man seemed to have received some sort of message, and she quickly retreated with the other scorpion men. Shua! The female scorpion man left behind a blurry figure in the dark underground city. Who? Both sides felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. Apart from the fact that the female scorpion man's soul wasn't as strong as a king's, her physical battle power had almost reached the level of a king. However, what everyone didn't know was that, just as the female scorpion woman moved a few hundred meters into a dark corner, she suddenly felt a strong gust of wind coming from her head. Meow meow. A silver-gray kitten seemed to have appeared out of thin air. It waved its paw and smacked the old man's head. The force of the cat's paw wasn't very strong. However, a strong sense of dizziness engulfed the female scorpionman's body. Immediately afterward, A pair of eyes that looked like purple lightning appeared in the female scorpion woman's vision. Gaze of ice soul. A wave of extreme coldness spread from the soul dimension to the female scorpion woman's soul, which was relatively weak. In reality, the female scorpionman's soul wasn't weaker than most half-step void god realms, but it hadn't reached the void god realm yet. God Tribulation Lightning. An immortal and undying aura of God Tribulation Lightning entered the female scorpionman's soul. The female scorpionman's soul started to shake, and she felt as if she was facing an apocalypse. That power had injured her soul, causing her to tremble and feel fear that stemmed from her instincts. Dark Heart Seal. As the female scorpionman's soul fell, a forbidden and wicked soul eye bloodline power appeared in the depths of her soul. Success! A handsome purple-haired youth murmured in a low tone. Meow meow. Shwa. The little thieving cat and the female scorpion man both disappeared. Shwa. Shwa. The purple-haired youth's wings fluttered, and he disappeared as well. The forces of the 10,000 Sacred Clan and the Purple Sun Palace stopped to check their numbers and heal the injured. Zhao Feng, where did you run off to? Lu Tianfan looked at the purple-haired youth who had appeared from a dark corner. I was fighting with the scorpion man and let it escape. Zhao Feng said expressionlessly. Boom, boom, boom. The battle between the two groups of Void God Realm kings became even more intense in the depths of the Scorpionman's territory. Faintly, everyone saw a dark scorpion figure appear in the sky above the underground city, and it covered the sky. That's the king of the Scorpion Men. Everyone took in a cold breath. Normal Scorpion Men were already so strong. It was hard to imagine how strong the king of the Scorpion Men would be. If they knew that there was another king among the Scorpion Men, they wouldn't have dared to enter. From the looks of it, the Scorpion Man king was forced to use his bloodline technique. Old Fei sighed. It was hard to imagine how strong the other king was. Rumble. The underground city started to shake. An arrogant youth in black clothes could be seen in the dust. A layer of silver light glittered around him, and wisps of spatial power started to undulate. Chapter 794. In the depths of the Scorpionman's territory, the battle between the youth and the Scorpion Man King was intense. The Scorpion King activated its bloodline secret skill, and a huge dark scorpion shadow appeared behind it. Every time it attacked, the huge scorpion shadow behind it would emit a majestic and mysterious ancient bloodline power. Its power was earth-shattering. This was because they were in the divine illusion dimension, and their power was greatly suppressed. If this was in the outside world, the Scorpion Man King would be able to destroy some small island zones. Shwa. The youth in black used a spatial technique, and left behind streaks of silver light, as he advanced and retreated. Mystic Spatial Rend. Suddenly, a silver streak of light shot out like a spatial crack, and it gave off a forbidden spatial aura as it slashed at the Scorpion Man King's side. Crack. The Scorpion Man King's scorpion armor could ignore attacks from kings of the same rank, and blood started to flow. Human bastard. Die. The Scorpion Man King started to counterattack, and its pincers and tail danced in the air, creating a dark silver whirlwind that instantly covered everything within 100 yards. Wang, on the surface of the black-clothed youth's body, a layer of dark silver light appeared, like the ripples on the surface of space. The Scorpion Man King's powerful attacks seemed to enter a spatial whirlpool when they landed on him, and they were sucked away. However, under the Scorpion Man King's enraged attack, the youth in black grunted, and was pushed back dozens of yards, even though he had a spatial technique protecting him. This Scorpion Man King's battle power is close to a peak-tier king when it's enraged. That youth's life force is very young. How come I've never heard of him on the Imperial Genius rankings? Those from the 10,000 Sacred Clan and Purple Sun Palace started to discuss. Kong Failing from the 10,000 Sacred Clan was on the Imperial Genius rankings, but her ranking was close to 300. Although the youth in black couldn't fight against the Scorpion Man King head-on, he had the upper hand due to his spatial techniques. It's him. Zhao Feng stood still and looked at the arrogant youth in black with surprise. That's right. He did know this youth in black. They were from the same clan and had worked together before. On this day, when Zhao Feng saw him again, he felt inexplicably emotional. "Friend, do you need our help?" Kong Feiling's eyes glittered. Even she, who had always been proud like a peacock, couldn't help but have a good impression of the dark-clothed young man's elegant bearing and strength. "No need." The black-clothed youth had an indifferent expression as he used his unfathomable spatial movement technique to deal with the Scorpion Man King. As the battle dragged on, the Scorpion Man King's bloodline secret technique could no longer be used for long, and its injuries accumulated. In less than an hour, the Scorpion King was defeated. It turned into a cold shadow and dashed toward the gloomier and more evil areas of the underground city. The black-clothed youth didn't continue his pursuit. After a fierce battle and defeating the Scorpion Man King, he had expended a lot of energy. "May I know your surname and which sect you come from?" Old Fei, Kong Feiling, and the others took the initiative to befriend him. If he could form an alliance with such a genius expert, it would be of great help to his future exploration. Nan Gongsheng, Mystic True Sacred Clan. The black-robed youth's expression remained cold as he scanned the two sides with his divine sense. The 10,000 Sacred Clan and Purple Sun Palace had a few half-step kings and mini-elites. He couldn't ignore them. Nan Gongsheng. Kong Feiling had a faint smile as she murmured the name and memorized it. Nan Gongsheng wasn't a famous name in the Lord Dynasty. Mystic True Sacred Clan? No wonder. Old Fei was very knowledgeable. Whether it was the continent or the surrounding seas, 3-star sects were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. The Mystic True Sacred Clan was a 3-star superpower that came from the Tsang Ocean. After defeating the Scorpion Man King, Nan Gongsheng's figure flashed as he entered the Scorpion Man King's palace and started to search for resources. "The resources of the Scorpion Man King's palace belong to me. You can do whatever you want elsewhere." Nan Gongsheng left behind this sentence. Nan Gongsheng had defeated the Scorpion Man King by himself, so no one had the right to ask about the resources within the palace. As the strongest underground race in the vicinity, the Scorpion Men possessed a considerable amount of resources and treasures. Zhao Feng also joined in the search for treasures. He had enslaved the female Scorpion Man, so he knew where the Scorpion Man's territory was and where some treasures were hidden. According to Zhao Feng's soul search, the female Scorpion Man was the queen of the previous Scorpion Man King. Apart from the Scorpion Man King, the female Scorpion Man had the highest status and strength. Whoosh! Zhao Feng left behind ripples of water of wind lightning as he moved, giving off a feeling of lightness and elegance. Soon, Zhao Feng entered an underground treasure room. There were 4 Scorpion Man experts guarding the treasure room. Zhao Feng sent out the female Scorpion Man Queen to chase them away. Soon, all kinds of flowers and grasses were displayed in the treasure room, and they released multicolored lights. These resources were all extraordinary. In the outside world, they would only appear once every 1,000, or even 10,000 years. A surge of heaven-earth yuan qi instantly leaked out, and attracted the attention of a few people nearby. "Come!" Zhao Feng used his fastest speed to gather some resources that were useful to him or extremely valuable. Dark lightning wood. Zhao Feng soon found a rare lightning Dao resource. It was half a pitch-black piece of wood, and it had dark lightning engravings on it. This dark lightning wood grew in damp and dark environments, and it had a strong ability to absorb lightning. The dark lightning wood in front of him was a peak-grade item that had been around for at least several dozen thousand years, and it contained the pure essence of the Tao of lightning. Whoosh! Zhao Feng held this piece of wood and circulated the 5-elemental wind lightning technique, and he felt wisps of dark lightning merge into his body. 5-colored water spirit grass, dark wind bamboo, dark dragon tooth grass. Zhao Feng's eyes sparkled. Of course, there were some treasures in the Scorpion Man King's palace that might be even more valuable. However, some of the resources in this treasure room were of great help to Zhao Feng's cultivation. Sung. At this moment, the elites of the 10,000 Sacred Clan and Purple Sun Palace sensed the auras of the resources and quickly closed in. The auras of these resources were too strong, and even Zhao Feng wasn't able to completely seal them away. If he circulated his magnificent power, the commotion would be even bigger. Zhao Feng, you're pretty lucky. Old Fei led a group of people and quickly closed in. Quick! Don't let the people from the 10,000 Sacred Clan take all the resources. The Purple Sun Palace wasn't much slower. However, they were attacked by 4 Scorpion Man warriors as soon as they got close. A battle soon broke out. With the combined strength of the two groups, it wasn't hard to take care of the 4 Scorpion Man warriors. However, Old Fei was slightly curious. Why was he able to enter the treasure room without being attacked by the Scorpion Man warriors? However, at this moment in time, the group didn't think too much and charged into the treasure room to obtain all sorts of rare plants and flowers. Most of the heavenly materials in the treasure room were stored in individual cultivation tools, and they were nurtured and protected by special formations. It took some time to break through the arrays and obtain the resources. When the group arrived, Zhao Feng had obtained 5 or 6 resources that were beneficial to him. The dark lightning wood, 5-layered water spirit grass, and dark wind bamboo helped Zhao Feng cultivate the wind lightning technique and accumulate true yuan. There was also a dark dragon sprout grass that was extremely rare and had a strong strengthening effect on one's physical body. This was the only body strengthening resource that Zhao Feng had obtained that was rather useful. The people from the 10,000 Sacred Clan and the Purple Sun Palace started to split the resources after entering the treasure room. Because Zhao Feng had found this place first, the 10,000 Sacred Clan took 70%, and the Purple Sun Palace took the remaining 30%. The people from the Purple Sun Palace weren't greedy. In terms of strength, the Purple Sun Palace was slightly weaker than the Purple Sun Palace. Furthermore, when they were working together, they had a verbal agreement on how to split the resources. Not long after, the treasure room was completely taken by both sides. Zhao Feng, the resources you obtained seem to be the most valuable. Old Fei's eyes twinkled as he looked at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng understood what he meant and smiled faintly as he quickly listed out the resources he had obtained. Zhao Feng, you're very honest. Old Fei nodded his head in satisfaction. The resources that Zhao Feng had obtained were extremely tempting to half-step void god realms. According to the rules, the resources that Zhao Feng found in this group had to be split among them. Just think about it. How could he enter such a dangerous place by relying on his own strength? These are what I deserve. Zhao Feng's tone was very calm. Hearing that, Old Fei's expression was slightly unnatural, and he was unhappy in his heart. It was obvious that Zhao Feng had no intentions of handing over the resources and listening to the distribution. Oh well, you were the first to find this treasure room. Old Fei didn't want to fight amongst themselves. With his shrewd eyes, he could see that Zhao Feng was confident and that he had some secrets and trump cards. The 4 Scorpion Men nearby should be responsible for guarding the treasure room. But why didn't they attack Zhao Feng? On the other hand, the people from the 10,000 Sacred Clan and the Purple Sun Palace were blocked by the Scorpion Men. Furthermore, Zhao Feng had a mysterious emperor as his master, and Duke Nanfeng even gave him a favor. He was only in the middle echelon of a clan, so he obviously didn't want to offend Zhao Feng. I'll teach this brat a lesson when I have the chance. Old Fei decided. Shua. Zhao Feng's figure flashed as he flew toward another place near the Scorpion Man's palace. There's also a place to store the parts of rare beasts. Zhao Feng murmured. After enslaving the Scorpion Man, he knew more information than anyone else. However, when Zhao Feng arrived at a cellar, it had already been discovered by people from the 2 forces. Among them were Kong Failing from the 10,000 Sacred Clan, and the purple-robed youth from the Purple Sun Palace, the 2 head disciples. Zhao Feng wasn't the first to arrive. This cellar was extremely spacious, and it was filled with mountains of materials that had been sorted out and stored. Many of the materials needed to be stored and nurtured in harsh environments. Otherwise, the heaven-earth yuan qi contained in the materials would slowly disappear, or their characteristics would change. I don't need the other materials, but I must get the bones of the king-ranked purple wind lightning lion. Zhao Feng had a decisive expression, The bones of the purple wind lightning lion contained the pure power of wind lightning, and its element was compatible with Zhao Feng's wind lightning technique. Unfortunately, the crystal core of the king-ranked purple wind lightning lion was carried by the Scorpion Man. Back then, the Scorpion Man had paid a heavy price to kill the purple wind lightning lion, and it had relied on its venom. If not for that, the crystal core of the king-ranked contained the wind lightning yuan qi, and it would have allowed Zhao Feng's cultivation to increase rapidly in a short amount of time. Found it. Zhao Feng used his god's spiritual eye to quickly find the purple crystal-like bones according to his memories. However, unfortunately, Brat stop. A few people from the 10,000 Sacred Clan and the Purple Sun Palace also found the bones of the purple wind lightning lion. Chapter 795. These people had arrived earlier than Zhao Feng, and many of them knew their stuff. Although they didn't recognize the purple wind lightning lion's bones, that didn't stop them from estimating their value. The purple-robed youth from the Purple Sun Palace was one of the people who stopped him. He was the head disciple of the Purple Sun Palace, and his cultivation had reached the half-step king realm. However, he wasn't listed on the Great Gan Imperial Genius ranking. Everyone who sees it has a share. I need these bones, Zhao Feng asked directly. His attitude almost angered those from the Purple Sun Palace. The resources in this cellar were first discovered by a talented genius from the Purple Sun Palace. Zhao Feng had just arrived and didn't do much, but he wanted to take one of the most valuable materials. This made them both angry and amused. We haven't decided on how to split the resources here. The purple-robed youth's eyebrows furrowed. This youth's cultivation wasn't high, but his skin was really thick. What's going on? Zhao Feng's gaze couldn't help but look toward the head disciple of the Purple Sun Palace, Kong Feiling. Kong Feiling paused and had a weird expression. After asking, Zhao Feng finally understood that the two forces hadn't reached an agreement on how to split the resources. The Purple Sun Palace had discovered this place first and wanted to split the resources. However, the problem was that the 10,000 Sacred Clan had also arrived when the Purple Sun Palace had discovered it. The 10,000 Sacred Clan wanted a 50-50 split, while the Purple Sun Palace wanted at least 60%. That's simple. Let's rely on our own abilities, Zhao Feng said straightforwardly. The moment he said that, the people from the Purple Sun Palace became even angrier. Brat, even if we rely on our own abilities, you won't be able to obtain this precious lightning Dao bone. An elder from the Purple Sun Palace laughed instead of getting angry. Fine, I'll back out for now. Zhao Feng shrugged. He then walked over to Kong Feiling. No, the bones are gone. The eyes of a short and fat middle-aged man from the Purple Sun Palace widened. Everyone looked over. The few bones of the Purple Wind Thunder Lion had already disappeared. Shwa! A dark silver illusory line appeared in the cellar and flashed for a moment. It's a spatial escape technique. The purple-robed young man cried out in shock. His half-step divine sense spread out and permeated the void. However, after the dark silver line disappeared, there was no longer any sign of it. Junior, did you steal the wind and thunder skeleton? The people from the Purple Sun Palace glared at them. The purple-robed youth and the others were all suspicious of Zhao Feng. Slander. Which one of your eyes saw me steal a bone in public? Zhao Feng said disdainfully. Everyone's expression froze. Indeed, no one noticed any signs of Zhao Feng making a move. From the beginning to the end, Zhao Feng was locked down by both sides and did not have a chance to make a move. Moreover, who has the ability to steal something without a trace in front of two great half-step kings? Zhao Feng said confidently. The people from the Purple Sun Palace and the Myriad Saints Palace looked like they had seen a ghost. Logically speaking, Zhao Feng was unlikely to make a move. However, instinctively, they felt that this was definitely related to Zhao Feng. Then who do you think could have done it? The purple-robed youth asked. Zhao Feng started to think. From what I can see, there's only one person who has the ability, and it's not someone from our two sections. Hearing that, everyone's hearts shook. Nan Gongsheng. Kong Failing and the purple-robed youth exclaimed. In terms of ability, Nan Gongsheng was the most likely. It's very possible. Nan Gongsheng's spatial movement technique has reached the peak of perfection. Someone soon agreed. After all, there wasn't anyone else in the two sects who had the ability to do so. Zhao Feng laughed in his heart. Nan Gongsheng, I'm not trying to frame you. I'm just analyzing it logically. In the demigod Forgotten Garden, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng had worked together before, and Nan Gongsheng played a huge part in killing the Warm Youth, Wen Luan. Nan Gongsheng did indeed have the ability to do so. However, Nan Gongsheng was a prideful person. Although he would rob them, he wouldn't steal them. I didn't think that Nan Gongsheng would be such a thief. The purple-robed youth had an ugly expression. If Nan Gongsheng really was the one who did it, there was nothing they could do. Nan Gongsheng's spatial abilities weren't something the two sects could do anything about. Right at this moment, Shua. Among the pile of materials, another top-notch material disappeared without a trace. It's the heart of a barbarian bull. That's the heart of an ancient barbarian bull, that's close to the king level. It can strengthen one's organs and body. The cellar was in chaos. Finally, no one knew who made the first move, but the entire cellar was in chaos. Occasionally, the dark silver line would appear as well. Nan Gongsheng, you bastard. The people from the two sects couldn't help but curse as they fought over the materials. Although the person who made the first move didn't steal many materials, they definitely weren't the best ones. Who's cursing me? Right at this moment, a king divine sense swept over. Boom! The soul dimension trembled as a powerful, magnificent power of the void god realm surged over. Instantly, the bodies of the two groups that were fighting over the materials shook as they felt a suffocating pressure. Who's cursing me? A youth in black arrived with just a few steps. Nan Gongsheng. The expressions of the two groups in the cellar froze. This was especially so for those who had cursed Nan Gongsheng. They felt weak. At this moment, Nan Gongsheng had already taken all the resources in the Scorpion King's palace. There was still some left, but he didn't care about them. He was just about to leave when he suddenly heard someone cursing him. The senses of a Void God Realm King were extremely strong, and after his soul evolved, he had a sense that surpassed common sense. This is all a misunderstanding. The purple-robed young man hurriedly explained with a flattering smile. You can't blame us. Zhao Feng suspected that you were the culprit, so those from the Purple Sun Palace started to push the blame away. Everyone's target was Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng? Nan Gongsheng revealed a weird expression as he followed everyone's gazes toward a handsome youth. That's right. After my analysis, I suspected Nan Gongsheng. However, I only suspected him. I didn't scold him. Zhao Feng said fearlessly. In the beginning, he was just trying to make Nan Gongsheng the scapegoat. After all, the current Nan Gongsheng was strong enough. However, the person cursing him was from the Purple Sun Palace. Why did you suspect me? Nan Gongsheng's expression was grim as he stared at Zhao Feng. The youth in front of him had the same surname as the person he knew. That person's name shook the Tsang Ocean. Even the ancient Emperor of Death died at his hands. Nan Gongsheng couldn't even reach that person's height. However, after scanning with his divine sense, he could tell that the two weren't the same person. Firstly, their physical body techniques and auras were different. Secondly, Nan Gongsheng couldn't connect this weak youth to the left-eyed heavenly emperor of the Tsang Ocean. Brother Nan Gongsheng, it's like this. Zhao Feng was neither servile nor overbearing as he recounted what had happened. You're very honest. Your suspicions aren't wrong. Nan Gongsheng nodded his head faintly. It was hard to find another person from the Purple Sun Palace and 10,000 Sacred Clan who could steal something from two half-step Void God realms. Even Nan Gongsheng would have to use his full strength to do so. As for you bastards. Nan Gongsheng's cold eyes scanned over the purple-robed youth and company. Boom! A weird magnificent power of space crushed over. Wah! The purple-robed youth and company all spat out a mouthful of blood and were injured to a certain degree. They couldn't fight back against a king that specialized in space. Only Kong Failing might be able to exchange a few blows with Nan Gongsheng. However, Kong Failing already had a good impression of Nan Gongsheng, so she never cursed him. The people that Nan Gongxing punished were the ones that had cursed him. How could the dignity of a king be insulted? The expressions of those from the Purple Sun Palace were ashen, and they didn't dare to say anything. I, Nan Gongxing, only know how to rob, not steal. Nan Gongxing snickered coldly. After saying that, he waved his hand and used a spatial technique to plunder the resources in the cellar. The people from the Purple Sun Palace and 10,000 Sacred Clan didn't dare to stop him. However, there was one person that dared to do so, Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't stop Nan Gongxing, and instead joined in the plundering. Zhao Feng. Kong Failing and company broke out in cold sweat for Zhao Feng. Ha ha ha, you're very interesting. You're very daring, just like that person. Nan Gongxing let out a long laugh. Most of the remaining materials were useless to him, so they were dispensable. However, Zhao Feng's actions made him interested. Whoosh, whoosh. Zhao Feng created a ripple of water of wind lightning as he moved. His speed was extremely profound. Wind lightning? What's your relationship with that, Zhao Feng? Nan Gongxing exclaimed. What relationship? Zhao Feng is my name. Zhao Feng faintly smiled as he joined in the plundering of resources. At this moment, the people from the Purple Sun Palace and 10,000 Sacred Clan were stunned. Similar, so similar, Nan Gongxing murmured. The technique and movement technique of this Zhao Feng was similar to the original Zhao Feng. His demeanor and style of doing things were also somewhat similar. Of course, Nan Gongxing was slightly suspicious, but he didn't believe it. He didn't believe that the left-eyed heavenly emperor, the incarnation of an unparalleled emperor, would be this youth. A while later, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing took all the resources in the cellar. Nan Gongxing didn't attack Zhao Feng. Maybe it was because he liked Zhao Feng's way of doing things. Or maybe it was because of that person. After plundering the materials, Zhao Feng's expression was calm and normal. He knew what Nan Gongxing was thinking very well. Zhao Feng was certain that some of his actions wouldn't make Nan Gongxing hate him. Nan Gongxing, I won't reveal my identity, but I won't purposely hide it. Let's see if you can see through it. Zhao Feng's mouth curled up as he sent Nan Gongxing off with his eyes. He planned to understand what Nan Gongxing was thinking and gain more benefits for himself. After all, Nan Gongxing was definitely one of the strongest geniuses in the divine illusion dimension. An hour later, Nan Gongxing left the Scorpion Men's area and flew toward the evil god's altar. The evil god's altar radiated a mysterious and weird undulation of power, and the nearby heaven-earth Yuan Qi was different. This was especially so for those with stronger bloodlines. According to the reactions of the underground races, the evil god's altar seemed to have the power to turn something rotten into something magical. That defeated Scorpion Man King should have escaped to the evil god's altar. If we follow Nan Gongxing, we'll be the vanguard, and we'll be able to get some benefits. A cunning light flashed through Old Fei's eyes. Chapter 796. The evil god's altar was at the center of the underground city. Anyone that approached the altar was from a powerful race. From what the Scorpion Queen had told him, the Scorpion Men weren't the only powerful race near the altar. There were 3 other races that weren't weaker than the Scorpion Men. With the evil god's altar as the center, the races were ranked from the strongest to the weakest. In reality, there were ratmen, catmen, and even weaker werewolves outside. Furthermore, the underground city was connected to all directions, and there were more than 1 or 2 entrances to the surface world. The people from the Purple Sun Palace had entered from another entrance. As for how Nan Gongxing had entered the underground city, Zhao Feng didn't know. According to what he knew, even if one barely managed to enter the divine illusion dimension after reaching the level of a king, the location they would appear in was random. However, that randomness didn't apply to the entire divine illusion dimension. Outsiders would only appear in the areas where the divine illusion dimension overlapped with the continent zone, including the random kings. The areas they appeared in were just the tip of the iceberg of the divine illusion dimension. That was why the Continent Lord dynasty didn't know much about the divine illusion dimension. For hours later, The group passed through the territory of the Scorpion Men. At this moment, in the complicated underground city, a tall and majestic dark square appeared. The dark square was dozens of miles in circumference. In the middle of it, there was an ancient altar that emitted a dense evil aura. It was emitting an enormous evil aura. D. At the center of the wicked altar was a pond of blood that was 100 yards wide. There was a silver pillar that was half a yard thick in the middle of the blood pond that connected to the roof of the underground city. Black Plaza, Wicked Altar Blood Pond. The gloomy atmosphere was a good match for the style of the underground city. Of course, what attracted the most attention was a purple and blood-colored crystal bead at the top of the silver pillar. The surface of the purple blood bead was sparkling and translucent, but its interior was deep and boundless. At first glance, it looked like a human eyeball, emitting an evil power that could bewitch one's mind. The surrounding heaven and earth yuan qi trembled and became chaotic. Evil God's altar, it's here. Kong Failing felt her Imperial Dao bloodline tremble slightly. This reaction was extremely strong. The mutated Imperial Dao bloodline within Zhao Feng's body was the same. Whoosh! That wisp of blood-colored, glass-like flame appeared on Zhao Feng's skin for a moment before vanishing. Is this the evil god crystal? Zhao Feng secretly sized him up. He learned more about the evil god altar from the Scorpion Queen. First, the evil god crystal was a special kind of god crystal. Right now, most of the god crystals that appeared in the fan universe were substandard god crystals, including the hubs of the Spirit Zone teleportation formation. And this heretic god crystal was said to be crystallized from the divine power of an ancient heretic god. I didn't expect it to be a pure god crystal. The only flaw is that the god crystal has developed an evil nature over the years, allowing it to influence the outside world. Old Fei's face was filled with excitement. The divine crystal was not a defective product. This was the domain of God. It belonged to the heavenly divine realm. The uniqueness of this evil god crystal was that it knew how to control and restrain its own power, as well as affect the living beings around it. Nan Gongsheng, Kong Failing suddenly exclaimed. There was a pale-faced youth in black leaning against the corner of the evil god's altar. There were also some non-human corpses near the altar. It was obvious. Nan Gongsheng had arrived early, and he had gone through an intense battle that was even harder than the Scorpion Man race. According to what Zhao Feng knew, there were powerful warriors from 4 races near the evil god's altar. Apart from them, there was also a priest. Although the priest's battle power wasn't the strongest, he had the ability to communicate with the evil god crystal, and he had a high status. Nan Gongsheng, what's wrong? Kong Failing walked over with concern. Don't come over. Nan Gongsheng's expression became grim. He moved alone and temporarily separated from the sect. He did not trust anyone. Those from the Purple Sun Palace and the 10,000 sacred clan slowly approached the altar. A weird scene appeared. Many disciples seemed to be possessed when they approached the altar, and they couldn't help but walk toward the blood pond. Plop! One of the disciples from the 10,000 sacred clan licked his lips and jumped into the blood pond with a hot expression. Shoo! D. The blood pond started to bubble, and the corpse of the disciple from the 10,000 sacred clan had already disappeared. Wang, the evil god crystal, flashed faintly. Retreat! Everyone retreat! Old Fei exclaimed. Normal elites didn't have Nan Gongsheng's king intent, so they couldn't easily block the power of the evil god crystal. The members of the 2 forces soon retreated a certain distance. Only those with strong cultivation and intent could approach the evil god's altar and carefully study it. Nan Gongsheng, have you seen the priest? Zhao Feng asked. Nan Gongsheng suddenly opened his eyes, and a weird light flashed through them. The way the other person called him made him feel as if he was talking to someone he knew. Priest, I haven't seen him. There were some strong non-human warriors near the altar, but I killed them all. Nan Gongsheng replied. He also felt that it was weird that he had the patience to answer this youth's questions. The priest from the evil god's altar didn't appear. Zhao Feng felt that something was off. Could it be that the priest had something urgent to do when Nan Gongsheng arrived at the evil god's altar? Zhao Feng felt that this was possible. After all the non-human warriors near the altar had been killed by Nan Gongsheng. One of them was even a king. Nan Gongsheng seemed to be injured, and he was slightly weak. It probably wasn't just because he was fighting. He might have been attacked by the evil god crystal's power when he tried to absorb it. After all, the evil god crystal wasn't a dead object. It had its own intelligence and abilities. If even Nan Gongsheng can't absorb the evil god crystal, then the others. Zhao Feng thought. This evil god crystal wasn't a substandard god crystal. A true god crystal was a priceless treasure in the fan universe, especially for Mystic Light Realm sacred lords. This was especially true for Mystic Light Realm sacred lords who wanted to break through to the heavenly divine realm. A pure god crystal was immeasurable. Once Zhao Feng returned to his previous life, he would be able to use the power of the god crystal. Zhao Feng casually walked onto the evil god's altar. He first glanced at the crystal of evil god, before approaching the blood pool under the silver pillar. Zhao Feng. Someone from the 10,000 sacred clan shouted. They thought that Zhao Feng had been affected by the power of the evil god crystal. A weird light flashed through Old Fei's eyes. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled, and he showed no signs of being affected by the evil god crystal. There's no need to worry. Let me take a look. Zhao Feng walked around the pond of blood, as if there was no one else around. During this period of time, the evil god crystal radiated a mysterious wicked power that tried to affect Zhao Feng, but it had no effect at all. A faint purple light flashed through Zhao Feng's left eye as he glared at the evil god crystal. Wang! The evil god crystal trembled slightly and released a layer of demonic light purple blood radiance, which had a kind of backlashing power that could corrode one's soul and body. Zhao Feng stood still and didn't move. His mental energy world was like a dead ocean, and his sacred lightning body released an invisible physical force that protected his body. The strength of both his mental energy and physical body made Zhao Feng's recultivation perfect. Of course, the evil god crystal wasn't a complete sentient being, and it wasn't very active. The power of the backlash was also dependent on the outside force. Simply put, it could be seen as a weapon with a spirit. If one didn't provoke it, it would be very hard for the weapon to attack or protect its owner. At a certain moment, Zhao Feng squatted down and pointed his hand at the pond of blood. Wang! A ball of blood appeared in Zhao Feng's hand with the help of an invisible physical force. Apart from the corrosive and evil nature of the blood itself, this blood contains an enormous amount of pure blood essence power. It can strengthen the body and increase one's true yuan. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. The power of the blood essence came from some ancient races in the underground city. Furthermore, the power of the blood essence was also affected by the evil god crystal. According to Queen Scorpion's reaction, some of the warriors in the underground city had entered the blood pond, and their strength had increased. The priests could communicate with the evil god crystal, so some people wouldn't be corroded by the evil power when they entered the blood pond. But correspondingly, every year, the underground city would send some prisoners into the blood pond to worship the evil god. If not, the underground fire would spread and engulf half of the underground city, causing countless living beings to fall into disaster. Some races tried not to worship the evil god. In the end, all the areas of those races were flooded by the underground fire. As time went on, the light of the evil god's power affected the entire underground city. Those who believed in the evil god would receive the gift of power, and those who didn't would face disaster. You humans! The power of the evil god will tear you apart. A furious roar came from the tunnel opposite the square. In the next instant, a haggard snakeman elder was holding a staff with a purple and blood-colored gemstone as he ran over. That is, everyone was stunned as they looked at the serpent man old man in the priest robe. It's the priest. The snake man who was fleeing in a sorry state was the high priest of the heretic god altar. However, when he saw the mess on the evil god's altar, he couldn't help but exclaim in shock. Humans, you split up and tried to attack the evil god's altar. The power of the evil god isn't something you can see. The great priest cursed in the human language. Zhao Feng was stunned. From the looks of it, the snakeman priest was being chased by some power. According to what he knew, the priest came from the nearby snakeman race. Watch out! The priest is a void god realm king. Old Fei exclaimed. The priest didn't specialize in fighting, but he was still a king and could communicate with the evil god crystal. Anger of the evil god. The snakeman priest waved the staff in his hand, and the purple and blood-colored gemstones on it started to shine with the evil god crystal on the pillar. Wang boom! In an instant, the entire darkness square shook violently. An invisible purple and blood-colored light spread through the air. The purple and blood-colored light had a strong corrosive ability, and the life force of all beings present started to disappear. Furthermore, there was also a magnificent power within the purple and blood-colored light that suppressed the air. Oomph! Nan Gongxing's figure flashed and disappeared. The next instant, an invisible spatial blade slashed toward the snakeman priest. The snakeman priest wasn't scared at all. A purple and blood-colored light radiated from the staff in his hand as he pushed Nan Gongxing back. Just as everyone was shocked by the priest's power. Snakeman priest, where do you think you're going? A thunderous roar sounded along with a surge of magnificent power. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Several figures with powerful auras appeared from the snakeman territory. There was a total of 150 to 60 of them. Chapter 797. This group was even stronger than the group from the 10,000 Sacred Clan. It was obvious that they were from another force that was chasing after the snakeman priest. What force is chasing after the snakeman priest here? Old Yen and company were surprised, but they also let out a breath. The power that the priest used to communicate with the evil god crystal was indeed monstrous. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The leader of this group was a burly man with thick eyebrows. He held a long spear in his hand that was overflowing with lightning. You humans came at the right time. The Serpent Man High Priest was infuriated when he saw them. This group had just destroyed the home of the snakeman race, and the priest couldn't even make it back in time. He wasn't a match for the muscular male. Once he left the black square, the snakeman priest would find it hard to communicate with the power of the evil god crystal. Boom! Boom! The snakeman priest waved his staff, and arcs of purple lightning shot toward the group of humans. Arg! The aggressive crowd immediately fell into chaos and screams could be heard. They didn't expect the snakeman priest to have such power after entering this place. Extreme lightning spear. The muscular male with thick eyebrows stabbed out with his spear, and the power of lightning condensed to the limit. Lightning streaked through the air like lightning. Bam! A purple and blood-colored light radiated from the snakeman priest's body, and it merged with the power of the evil god crystal. Although the snakeman priest couldn't truly use this power, it suppressed the snakeman priest. The muscular male with thick eyebrows spear wasn't able to break through the snakeman priest's defense. How is this possible? The muscular male with thick eyebrows was dazed. The snakeman priest that he had beaten earlier had become so strong. On the other hand, the snakeman priest casually waved his staff, and a purple and blood-colored light turned into a wave of light that forced the muscular male with thick eyebrows to retreat. The power of the evil god crystal is too strong, even if it doesn't contain any intent. Zhao Feng retreated to a corner. The snakeman priest's attacks didn't contain any technique. It was just pure power. In terms of pure strength, even void god realm emperors paled in comparison. Luckily, the power of the evil god crystal was just pure power, and it didn't contain any techniques. Anger of the evil god. The snakeman priest slightly raised his staff, and the power of the evil god crystal suppressed everyone present. The entire black square was covered in a purple and blood-colored light. The experts and elites present all felt that their blood auras and bloodline power were being drained continuously. Wang, however, the color of the evil god crystal became even brighter. Zhao Feng finally understood why the power of the evil god crystal was able to sense bloodline experts. Are you Gu Chaoji, who's ranked 145th on the imperial ranking? Let's join hands and fight this Naga shaman together. Ancestor Thousand Dragons, weaken evil. The Thousand Clan Ancestor, Evil Saint, Thousand Beasts. Thousand Sacred Thousand Fey Sacred Thousand. That Guchen Dragon from Li. At the same time, he was also a genius on the Great Qian Imperial roll, and his ranking was much higher than Kong Phalanx. Sure, Gu Chaoji was very straightforward. He told the disciples and elites of Earth Spirit Hall to form a formation and fight against the Snakeman priest. The 10,000 Sacred Clan and Purple Sun Palace were facing less pressure, so they started to counterattack. The geniuses of Earth Spirit Hall, 10,000 Sacred Clan, and Purple Sun Palace teamed up. Their power was not to be underestimated. Earth Spirit Hall was a 3-star superpower. Boom! Boom! The square where the evil god's altar was located started to shake. The Snakeman priest gripped his staff with difficulty, and it wasn't as easy as before. Gu Chaoji and Nan Gongsheng, two king geniuses, attacked from the sides, looking for openings. Let's kill the Snakeman priest first, then discuss how to split the evil god crystals. The three forces in Nan Gongsheng came to an agreement, and their attacks became even fiercer. The Snakeman priest could communicate with the power of the evil god crystal, but he couldn't use its true power. Slowly but surely, the Snakeman priest was at a disadvantage. However, the three forces couldn't do anything to the Snakeman priest. The Snakeman priest retreated to the evil god's altar and used the power of the evil god crystal and the blood pond. If he focused on defense, even two kings wouldn't be able to break through his defense. What was even worse was that the wicked power of the evil god crystal filled the entire square, and the life force, blood, and true yuan of everyone within it started to fade. The life force was then absorbed by the evil god crystal and the blood pond. If this continued, the three forces wouldn't have a good time either. Of course, the Snakeman priest would expend a lot of energy during the fight. We have the numbers advantage. We can exhaust him to death. The attacks of the three forces continued. Some of them even shifted their attacks to the altar. If we destroy the altar, the power of the evil god crystal will be greatly reduced. Old Fei laughed. Crack. Under the intense attacks, cracks started to appear on the altar even though it was extremely tough. The expression of the Snakeman priest changed slightly. Scorpion King, come out. The priest suddenly roared and waved the staff in his hand. Who? A large, ugly and pitch-black scorpion man jumped out of the blood pond in the middle of the altar. Scorpion King. This scorpion man was the one that Nan Gongsheng had defeated earlier. The Scorpion Man King's injuries had mostly healed after entering the blood pond, and it was surrounded by a purple and blood-colored light. Its battle power and defense had both increased dramatically. Kill! The Scorpion Man King waved its pincers and charged toward the group of people with a dark, magnificent power. Loser! Nan Gongsheng used a spatial movement technique and instantly closed in on the Scorpion Man King, slashing out waves of spatial energy. The pressure on the priest decreased dramatically after the Scorpion Man King joined the battle. The Scorpion Man King's offense and defense were both strong, and it was like adding wings to a tiger with the help of the evil god crystal. On the contrary, Nan Gongsheng wasn't at his peak state, so it was hard for him to deal with it. Bam! Gu Chaoji from the Earth Spirit Hall wielded his spear and charged into the evil god's altar several times, but he was sent flying every time. The priest had the protection of the evil god crystal, so he was basically undefeatable in terms of defense. Everyone retreat! Old Fei exclaimed as he felt that the situation wasn't right. Of the two kings, Nan Gongsheng had used up most of his yuan qi and was slightly weak. Gu Chaoji wasn't at his peak either. The three sides came to an agreement and temporarily retreated from the evil god's altar through one of the entrances. In the dark tunnel of the underground city, the three sides immediately started to discuss and sent people to monitor the situation of the evil god's altar. The Scorpion Man King returned to the blood pond. The priest didn't dare to let the Scorpion Man King leave so easily, or else he wouldn't be able to defend the altar against the elites of the three sections. Once my true yuan recovers, I'll take action and destroy the altar. At that time, I hope that no one will hold back. Nan Gongsheng said. He sat down in a corner and recovered his yuan qi. Good. I also had some powerful secret techniques that I didn't use just then. Gu Chaoji nodded his head. The key to dealing with the priest was to destroy the altar. As long as the priest used the evil god crystal's power, it would be greatly reduced, and he would definitely die. In the next day or two, the geniuses and elites of the three sects were all resting. Zhao Feng, on the other hand, was full of energy. He hadn't done much in the underground city yet. Dark lightning would. Half a piece of pitch black wood appeared in Zhao Feng's hand, and he circulated the wind lightning technique to absorb the dark lightning within. This piece of dark lightning wood was a peak-grade item that contained the pure essence of lightning. Zhao Feng's wind lightning technique absorbed lightning from the 10,000 lightning sects, 5-elemental 10,000 lightning technique. Of course, during the absorption process, Zhao Feng had to eliminate some of the dark power within the dark lightning wood. Dark wind bamboo. A piece of bamboo appeared in Zhao Feng's other hand and created a gust of cold wind. He had obtained the dark lightning wood and dark wind bamboo from the secret room earlier. These two resources were rare in the outside world, and they corresponded to the elements of wind and lightning. Zhao Feng had reached the level of the 10,000 divine thoughts technique, so he could split his thoughts into several parts and use the 10,000 lightning technique to absorb. 5-elemental water spirit grass. The third peak-grade water elemental grass appeared in Zhao Feng's hand. This guy's really extravagant. Such precious treasures of heaven and earth. Yet he absorbed them just like that. Some of the elites of the three sects were envious and jealous. Some of the older generation even shook their heads. Zhao Feng's ability to absorb three resources at the same time also surprised everyone. What was more surprising was that Zhao Feng's absorption efficiency was very high, and there wasn't much loss of heaven and earth energy. If this wasn't talent, then it must be a rare secret technique. That kid cultivates the Tao of wind and lightning. Gu Chaoji from the Earth Spirit Hall murmured and glanced at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng cultivated as if there was no one else around. In reality, he still had the wind lightning bone of the purple wind lightning lion, but he couldn't take it out for the time being. Soon a day or two passed. Zhao Feng had absorbed more than half of the three heavenly resources. His efficiency was astonishing. The core within Zhao Feng's body expanded slightly. At this moment, his cultivation had consolidated from the middle stage small origin core realm, and he was one step closer to the late stage small origin core realm. After I finish absorbing the power of the wind lightning bone, my cultivation will be able to reach the late stage small origin core realm. Zhao Feng couldn't help but think. Of course, the Scorpion Man King had a king-level crystal core of the purple wind lightning lion, which was even more valuable. If he could obtain that king-level crystal core, it wouldn't be hard for Zhao Feng to break through to the great origin core realm. Prepare to attack. Gu Chaoji from the Earth Spirit Hall slowly stood up, and his spear flashed with lightning. On the other side, Nan Gongsheng also stood up. This time, the three sects formed their own arrays to attack the evil god's altar. The power of that formation could make use of the advantage of numbers. Evil god's wrath. The snakeman priest snickered coldly as he waved his staff, and a wicked purple and blood-colored light covered the area. However, with the corresponding arrays, everyone's resistance to the evil god crystal's power increased dramatically, and the pressure on them decreased. At the same time, Nan Gongsheng and Gu Chaoji attacked. Lightning explosion. The earth-grade spear in Gu Chaoji's hand shot out, and spat out a condensed ball of lightning that instantly exploded when it struck the altar. In that instant, the entire altar, including the spacious square, began to tremble violently, accompanied by a continuous rumbling. So, Gu Chaoji's move was to throw out the earth-grade spear and make it explode together with the ball of lightning on the tip of the spear. This move was equivalent to using an earth-ranked divine weapon as the carrier of a bomb. Its might was extremely terrifying. Crack! Cracks started to appear on the evil god's altar. Gu Chaoji was slightly smug after completing this move, but he jumped up in fright when he looked at Nan Gongsheng. Chapter 798. Just as everyone was shocked by Gu Chaoji's powerful electrode explosion, Qingquan sword, Nan Gongsheng released a bright silver light as an inheritance sacred sword appeared in his hand. He slowly slashed out, and a bright silver sword light appeared in the air and created a power that could shake heaven and earth. That sword contained a domineering intent that seemed to be able to twist heaven and earth. As the Qingquan sword slashed out, all the intents and techniques in front of it were shattered. Bam! That sword strike had forcefully split the purple and blood-colored radiance that had enveloped the entire darkness square into two and into pieces. Crack! Boom! Even the sturdy underground city was shaking violently. And this was under the divine illusion dimension's suppression of power. The evil god's sacrificial altar, which bore the brunt of the attack, was crumbling layer by layer. Inheritance sacred weapons are usually comparable to heaven-grade weapons. The snakeman priest was stunned. Qingquan sword. It's the lost inheritance sacred weapon of the continent. On the other side, Gu Chaoji was slightly dazed. The power of Nan Gongsheng's sword was comparable to his lightning explosion, but its ability to twist heaven and earth and destroy intent was even more unique. Who was superior and who was inferior was clear at a glance. As expected of an inheritance sacred sword that's comparable to the sky-locking bow. In the rear, Zhao Feng inwardly sighed. The Qingquan sword and the sky-locking bow both came from the demigod Forgotten Garden. At his peak, the demigod Kuan Yin stood at the peak of the world, and his weapon was a top treasure. Damn humans! The snakeman priest felt the altar crumble. He quickly waved his staff and communicated with the evil god Crystal to protect the altar. However, the evil god's sacrificial altar wouldn't be able to last much longer against Nan Gongsheng and Gu Chaoji's continuous attacks. Come out! The snakeman priest gritted his teeth and slammed his staff onto the ground. Boom! In the blood pool at the center of the altar, waves of blood surged and a blood-colored whirlpool appeared in the center. Bam! An evil giant scorpion rushed out of the blood-red vortex. Its body had a dark blood-red luster, and its eyes were scarlet. Its face looked similar to the Scorpion Man King from before. The giant dark blood scorpion was like a small mountain, emitting a bloodthirsty and berserk aura. Bang! Rumble! The underground city square where the evil god's altar was located shook violently again, as if it couldn't bear the tremendous power. Be careful! Old Fei shouted. The aura that the dark blood scorpion gave off was several times stronger than the Scorpion Man King's. Bang! Nan Gongsheng and Gu Chaoji, who bore the brunt of the attack, were sent flying by the purple and blood-colored whirlwind created by the dark blood scorpion. After being strengthened by the evil god Crystal Blood Pond, the Scorpion Man King's battle power has reached the peak tier king level. Other than the gap between our souls and intents, there are certain aspects in which he doesn't lose out to god monarchs. In the rear, Zhao Feng and the others all felt a violent and oppressive aura. Every time the dark blood scorpion waved its hand, a cold purple and blood-colored light would turn into a whirlwind that shattered everything in its path. Nan Gongsheng and Gu Chaoji had to team up to barely block its attack. If the dark blood scorpion charged into the crowd, the consequences would be unimaginable. Split into two groups. Old Fei commanded the geniuses in the rear. The other geniuses of the three sects split into three groups. One of them was used to restrict the dark blood scorpion. The other was used to attack the evil god's altar. Qingquan Void Slash. Nan Gongsheng appeared in the air above the dark blood scorpion and slashed out a half-transparent silver crack that was half a yard wide and dozens of yards long. Everything in the air was instantly torn apart by the power of space. This spatial technique was said to be unstoppable with the help of the Qingquan sword. Crack! The dark blood-colored light around the dark blood scorpion was instantly torn apart, leaving behind a bone-deep wound that went straight to the organs. The dark blood scorpion's roar shook the sky, and the square started to shake. Shwa! Nan Gongsheng disappeared and dodged the furious counterattack of the dark blood scorpion, before appearing next to it, and unleashing a lightning-fast slash. Lightning explosion! A spear-shaped earth-ranked divine weapon appeared in Gu Chaoji's hand. Carrying with it a condensed and dazzling ball of lightning, it pierced into the dark blood scorpion's roaring mouth and instantly exploded. Boom! The dark blood scorpion's enormous body was charred black by the raging electric arcs. Its face and mouth were almost blown apart. Of course, although Gu Chaoji's attack was strong, it would use up a weapon every time it attacked. Its advantage was obvious, unlike Nan Gongxing's Qingquan sword, which used up a lot of energy. Ding! Ding! Boom! Boom! At the same time, the attacks from the three sects landed on the dark blood scorpion. The dark blood scorpion was already covered in injuries, and fear appeared in its eyes. It was helpless against Nan Gongxing's spatial abilities. The Qingquan sword was extremely powerful, and when combined with spatial techniques, it was unstoppable. Furthermore, Nan Gongxing was a rare domain-level king. As time passed, the dark blood scorpion was covered in injuries. Its powerful physical defense wasn't able to block the spatial techniques of the Qingquan sword. Seeing this, the head priest on the altar straightened his face. With the destruction of the evil god's altar, his ability to communicate with the evil god crystal had decreased by 1/5. Furthermore, this time, the three sects had formed a strong array, and their offensive and defensive techniques were stronger. Their resistance against the evil god crystal also increased dramatically. No matter how strong they were, they couldn't fight against so many people. The dark blood scorpion was about to be defeated by the attacks of the three sections. Panic finally appeared on the priest's face. Evil god tide! The priest exclaimed as he stabbed the staff into the pond of blood, causing waves of light to ripple. The evil god pearl on the silver pillar released a rain of purple and blood-colored light that radiated a power that surpassed the void god realm. Boom! In an instant, the purple and blood-colored light intertwined with the heaven-earth yuan qi and roared, forming a tide that swept across heaven and earth. This tide caused all attacks and powers that were based on heaven-earth yuan qi to become chaotic. The blood of the experts of the three sects started to boil, and their true yuan and true force became unstable. At this moment, chaos ensued. Only a small number of half-step void god realms, or stronger, were able to stabilize their true yuan. Even the attacks of the two kings stopped for a moment. However, the dark blood scorpion's physical strength was strong. Even if yuan qi was disturbed, its claws could still threaten void god realm kings. Training the physical body won't be affected by these special circumstances. Zhao Feng stood as still as Mount Tai. The high priest's tide of the evil god could affect all kinds of true power and true essence on the basis of heaven and earth yuan qi. In some special circumstances, it could even restrict the heaven-earth yuan qi. However, body-strengthening techniques and physical strength weren't affected by these circumstances. In the past, the demigod Kuan Yin relied on his demigod sacred body to dominate heaven and earth. He used pure strength to crush everything without fear. Even if the priest does this, it doesn't affect the situation much. Zhao Feng's eyebrows furrowed. Up until now, in the exploration of the dungeon, he was always a supporting character. Apart from enslaving the Scorpion Queen, Zhao Feng hadn't used his true strength. However, because benefits weren't the most important thing yet. Don't let him run. Old Fei suddenly realized something and exclaimed. As soon as he finished speaking, under the cover of the evil god tide, the snakeman priest on the altar fled. So, seeing that the situation was hopeless, the snakeman priest decided to sacrifice himself to save his own life. Due to the evil god tide, the experts of the three sects weren't able to circulate their true yuan as they wished. On the other hand, he had the staff and could communicate with the power of the evil god crystal, so he wasn't affected by the evil god tide. Where do you think you're going? Nan Gongxing turned into a streak of silver light and chased after the snakeman priest. The power of space was a unique way of using power, so it wasn't affected much by the evil god tide. Furthermore, the snakeman priest wasn't able to use the true power of the tide. Even then, Nan Gongxing's speed was greatly restricted, and he could only barely keep up. More than a dozen breaths later, Nan Gongsheng chased out of the black square, and the evil god tide's influence was at its lowest. Die! Nan Gongsheng slashed out a ripple-like void wave blade, and sent the snakeman shaman flying with a pfff sound. The snakeman priest screamed as his body turned into a bloody mess. Even the scepter in his hand flew out of his hand due to the impact. Meow meow. A dark silver streak flashed, and a little silver-gray cat appeared. The kitten moved swiftly and grabbed the scepter. Nan Gongsheng was surprised to see the little cat. Meow. The little thieving cat grabbed the staff with the purple and blood-colored gem, and smiled at Nan Gongsheng. Give me back my evil god staff. The snakeman priest reacted and roared in anger. Tai. The little thieving cat waved the staff, and smacked the snakeman priest's head before disappearing. The snakeman priest howled as a bump appeared on his head, and he felt dizzy. Meow. The little thieving cat grabbed the staff, and disappeared from in front of Nan Gongsheng and the snakeman priest. Could it be? Nan Gongsheng's heart shook, but he didn't have time to think. He slashed out a silver spatial rend, and cut the slightly dizzy snakeman priest in two. A while later, meow meow meow, a little cat holding a staff appeared on the evil god's altar, and danced around like a god. The geniuses and elites of the three sects all had weird expressions. At this moment, the power of the evil god Tide still hadn't stopped. Meow. The little thieving cat's eyes spun as it waved the staff in its hand. Instantly, the evil god Tide that was wreaking havoc in the space suddenly stopped. That seems to be Zhao Feng's pet. A core disciple from the 10,000 Sacred Clan exclaimed. Could this cat have been possessed by the priest? It can actually communicate with the power of the evil god crystal? The geniuses and elites of the three sects were puzzled. Soon, the wicked power of the evil god crystal also started to fade away. Shua. At the same time, the dark-blooded scorpion turned back into its scorpion man form and entered a tunnel. However, no one paid attention to the scorpion man king that was running away. Everyone's eyes were on the little cat on the altar. Zhao Feng, your cat. How did it become the new priest of the evil god's altar? Old Fei's eyes bulged out. Kong Failing and company were all stunned as they looked at the owner of the cat, Zhao Feng. Chapter 799. Meow meow. The little thieving cat, which was slightly bigger than a palm, waved the evil god's scepter and danced around arrogantly. It was like a little god. At this point in time, no one present dared to ignore this little thing, because it also had the ability to communicate with the evil god crystal. In this aspect, it wasn't any weaker than the snakeman priest from before. The leaders of the three forces, Gu Chaoji, the purple-robed youth Kong Failing, Old Fei and company, seemed to choke. Gu Chaoji and the purple-robed youth didn't know what was going on. They didn't want to see a new high priest appear, after they had finally defeated one of them with great difficulty. Zhao Feng. The gazes of the elites of the 10,000 Sacred Clan landed on the handsome youth. The owner of this cat was none other than Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng. So it really is you. Not far away, Nan Gongsheng revealed a complex and solemn expression. After seeing the little thieving cat, Nan Gongsheng was 80 to 90% sure that this Zhao Feng was the original Zhao Feng. As for how Zhao Feng became like this, he didn't know. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng know each other? The elders and disciples of the 10,000 Sacred Clan were filled with disbelief. One had to know. Nan Gongsheng came from the Tsang Ocean, and he was a core disciple of a 3-star power. From the situation, Nan Gongsheng seemed to be wary of Zhao Feng. I didn't say he wasn't. Zhao Feng smiled faintly. Nan Gongsheng paused. Thinking back to what Zhao Feng said in the Scorpion Man race's territory, Zhao Feng is my name. Zhao Feng didn't deny it, but he wouldn't say it out loud either. What's going on? The elites of the three forces didn't know what was going on. The disciples of the 10,000 Sacred Clan were especially surprised. This Zhao Feng, Kong Failing Lu Tianfan, Huang Yunhu, and company stared at Zhao Feng. They felt that this youth seemed to be shrouded in layers of fog, and there were all kinds of mysteries about him. Zhao Feng slowly walked toward the evil god altar. In fact, the heretic god's altar was already in pieces, but the blood pool at its core was not destroyed. Zhao Feng. Nan Gongseng looked at the back of that youth and wanted to say something. At this moment, there were thousands of questions in his mind. In the Zhongxi, the name of the left-eyed heavenly emperor had shaken the three spiritual holy lands. That soul-stirring pursuit of death became a much-told story. The Emperor of Death was the oldest forbidden emperor in the Tsang Ocean. Even Mystic Light Realm sacred lords didn't dare to offend him. Afterwards, when the Mystic Light Realm Grand Elder of the Mystic True Sacred Clan heard about this, he was stunned. His clan had given birth to such a talented person. If the left-eyed heavenly emperor was still in the Tsang Ocean, even a sacred lord would be polite to him. Zhao Feng did not explain, and slowly walked towards the blood pool. Thump! Zhao Feng's figure suddenly jumped into the blood pool, under the heretic god crystal pillar. D. The faint purple waves of blood washed over Zhao Feng's body, but he wasn't corroded by the wicked power. Not only does this blood pool contain a large amount of pure blood essence, it also contains the power of the evil god crystal. Zhao Feng laid in the blood pool and seemed to be enjoying it. The little thieving cat could communicate with the power of the evil god crystal through the evil god scepter, so Zhao Feng wouldn't be corroded by the wicked power. If not, even a small origin core realm would be instantly melted if they jumped into the blood pool. Zhao Feng circulated the golden koan sacred lightning body and used the blood essence and the power of the god crystal to refine his body. The power of the blood had a high affinity with the human body, so it was quite effective. Furthermore, the power within the blood pool could not only strengthen his body, but it could also increase his true yuan cultivation. Before this, Zhao Feng had his eyes on the blood pool. Although the evil god crystal was valuable, he was unable to absorb the power within it right now. Shua! Nan Gongxing and Gu Chaoji, the two king geniuses, jumped next to the blood pool. Gu Chaoji glanced at Zhao Feng in the blood pool, then gave Nan Gongxing a questioning look. In terms of strength, Nan Gongxing was slightly stronger than him. However, from the looks of it, Nan Gongxing was wary of this youth at the small origin core realm. Zhao Feng, what do you plan to do with the evil god crystal? Nan Gongxing finally spoke. Hearing that, the hearts of the elites of the three sects, including the king Gu Chaoji, shook. Nan Gongxing's strength obviously won over everyone. His spatial talents and secret techniques, as well as the power of the inheritance sacred weapon, the Qiankuan sword, were deeply engraved in everyone's hearts. However, at this moment, Nan Gongxing was asking for Zhao Feng's opinion on how to split the evil god crystal. The blood pool is mine, but the evil god crystal isn't very useful to me right now. However, if anyone can help me obtain the crystal core of the purple wind lightning lion, I will do my best to help them obtain the evil god crystal. Zhao Feng said slowly. He thought about it and decided to give up on the evil god crystal. Firstly, the evil god crystal was too big of a deal. It was a god crystal, and it was a hot potato. Right now, Zhao Feng could only fight against kings at most. He didn't want to become everyone's target. Secondly, the power contained within the evil god crystal was too strong, and it was hard to absorb. There was no point in holding it for a short period of time. There was another important point. The power within the evil god crystal wasn't pure anymore, and it was tainted by evil. In comparison, some of the god crystal's power had been merged into the blood pool, and it could be absorbed to increase Zhao Feng's strength. Thirdly, the evil god crystal was extremely hard to obtain. When Zhao Feng first entered the evil god's altar, he had used his god's spiritual eye to test it. The evil god crystal had a strong backlash. This Zhao Feng isn't just smart. Just one sentence. Take the most practical blood pool and give the hot diabolical crystal to someone else. Old Fei's eyes twinkled. At this moment, no one dared to fight with Zhao Feng for the blood pool. After all, his cat had replaced the snakeman priest and could communicate with the power of the evil god crystal. Furthermore, Nan Gongxing's cautious and respectful attitude toward Zhao Feng made him seem even more unfathomable. Sure, Nan Gongxing was the first to agree. He walked the Tao of space, not body strengthening, so the power of the blood pool wasn't very tempting. Gu Chaoji and the geniuses of Earth Spirit Hall were slightly unhappy. Senior Marshal Brother Gu, are we really going to give him the benefits of the blood pool? The true inheritors behind him said with dissatisfaction on their faces. Gu Chaoji's gaze swept over Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing, but he remained silent. The current situation. Nan Gongxing was completely on Zhao Feng's side, and the little thieving cat had become the priest of the evil god's altar. Brother, do you mean what you say? You'll help whoever gets the crystal core of the purple wind lightning lion get the evil god crystal? A white-bearded half-step king from Earth Spirit Hall stared at Zhao Feng in the blood pool. Of course, I won't stop others from getting the evil god crystal. However, I'll only try my best. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to get the evil god crystal. Zhao Feng replied. Hearing that, people from the three sects tried to get the evil god crystal. However, they all failed, and even suffered the backlash of the evil god crystal. Wah! The white-bearded half-step king instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. The others who tried were more or less at a disadvantage. The person in the worst condition was sent flying by the power of the evil god crystal and fainted. A playful smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face as he laid in the blood pool. The evil god crystal wasn't a normal god crystal. Apparently, it was formed from the power of an evil god's god, and it was now wicked and had the ability to affect the outside world. There was a purple and blood-colored gem embedded in the staff in the little thieving cat's hand. It was actually a peak-grade primal crystal stone that had been refined by the power of the evil god crystal, and it maintained a connection with the evil god crystal. Zhao Feng laid in the blood pool and used his blood essence and the power of the god crystal to refine his body and strengthen his true yuan. Shua, shua, shua. Dark lightning wood, wind bamboo, 5 balanced water spirit grass, and other items appeared in front of Zhao Feng. In the blink of an eye, more than half a day passed. In this period of time, many geniuses and elites from the three sects tried to obtain the god crystal, but none of them succeeded. Nan Gongxing sat down and didn't try. When he first arrived, he tried to obtain the evil god crystal and suffered a strong backlash. Gu Chaoji from Earth Spirit Hall secretly sent people to search for the Scorpion Man King. Zhao Feng, I'm going to take the crystal core of the purple wind lightning lion. Nan Gongxing stood up. At this moment, he had recovered his yuan qi, and his figure flashed as he disappeared from the evil god's altar. Senior Marshal Brother Gu, Nan Gongxing has already left. Now is the best time to take action against that brat. A core disciple from Earth Spirit Hall suggested. Gu Chaoji stood there and gave a deep glance at Zhao Feng in the blood pool. Brother Gu, I'm not your match in a one-on-one fight. Zhao Feng smiled faintly as he glanced at him. Hearing that, Gu Chaoji's face twitched. As for the other disciples of the three sects, they had strange looks on their faces. What kind of opponent would purposely reveal that he wasn't as strong as his opponent? The more Zhao Feng acted like this, the more uneasy Gu Chaoji felt. Thinking about how Nan Gongxing was extremely cautious and wary of this youth, Zhao Feng didn't feel confident. Let's go find the Scorpion Man King. Gu Chaoji ordered, and led a group of people to search for the Scorpion Man King. The evil god crystal wasn't the only place to obtain resources in the underground city. There were many other places that could be explored. Zhao Feng couldn't help but shake his head as he lay in the blood pool. He hadn't tricked Gu Chaoji with what he just said. Right now, Zhao Feng's soul strength was close to that of a Void God Realm king, so he could easily deal with those below the Void God Realm. However, Gu Chaoji was a king on the Imperial Genius rankings, and his battle power was strong. If it was a one-on-one fight, Zhao Feng might have the ability to protect himself, but the chances of him winning were very small. Within the blood pool, Zhao Feng's cultivation was clearly increasing. After using the dark lightning wood, the dark wind bamboo, and the 5-layered water spiritual tree, his cultivation was approaching the late-stage small origin core realm. The blood essence and the power of the god crystals in the pond of blood had a lot of room for improvement in his sacred lightning body and true yuan cultivation. At the same time, some disciples of the 10,000 sacred clan murmured unhappily, "This Zhao Feng is taking the power of the blood pool for himself. How selfish. He has the ability, but he doesn't help our clan steal the evil god crystal." Several disciples and older elites were extremely unhappy and decided to lecture Zhao Feng. Chapter 800. Within the evil god's altar in the Black Square. Zhao Feng, Junior Martial Brother Zhao. Some of the disciples and older elites of the 10,000 sacred clan had angry expressions as they gathered toward the blood pond. Among them were Kong Feiling and Old Fei. Their expressions were filled with helplessness. From Zhao Feng's previous actions, it was clear that he wouldn't give up so easily and give away his own benefits to someone else. At this moment, Zhao Feng was in control of the situation. Even Nan Gongsheng and Gu Chaoji were wary of him. Zhao Feng laid lazily in the blood pond and glanced at the members of the same clan. "Zhao Feng, this old man admires your strength and means very much. However, you want to take the blood pond for yourself and even give away the evil god crystal. Everyone feels uncomfortable, and if this gets to the upper echelon of the clan..." Old Fei's tone was relatively friendly, but he stated his intentions. "That's right. You're a member of the 10,000 sacred clan. How can you be so selfish? Junior Martial Brother Zhao, are you not afraid of the punishment from the upper echelon?" Some disciples and seniors either criticized or admonished him, expressing their dissatisfaction. Zhao Feng's expression was slightly cold. "Do you really think that I'd be afraid of the upper echelon of a 2-star power?" Everyone paused, and those that threatened the upper echelon of the clan choked. The hearts of Old Fei and Kong Feiling shook. Could it be that Zhao Feng wasn't afraid of the upper echelon of the clan, and didn't put the 10,000 sacred clan in his eyes? Seeing how calm Zhao Feng was, Old Fei and Kong Feiling instinctively felt that he wasn't just being arrogant. Even Nan Gongsheng, a super genius from a 3-star power, was extremely respectful and cautious of Zhao Feng. Apart from that, Zhao Feng had received Duke Nanfeng's recognition and a favor. Apparently, he had even rejected Duke Nanfeng's offer of a duke title. If he was willing, Zhao Feng could leave the 10,000 sacred clan and join the duke's palace, or even the Great Gan Imperials. This Zhao Feng is immeasurable. He does have the ability to do so. Old Fei's eyes twinkled. At this stage, they also did not dare to fall out with Zhao Feng. "This blood pool is my spoils of war. If the thieving cat hadn't communicated with the evil god crystal, it would have been useless," Zhao Feng said calmly. According to the distribution of benefits, this blood pool was his spoils of war. If he was willing to share some with the sect, it would be in line with the sect's principles. Even if he was unwilling, it was within reason. "What do you say about the evil god crystal? This is a divinity crystal. It belongs to the realm of the gods," a young man said coldly. His question was also in line with the hearts of the crowd. Everyone was waiting for Zhao Feng's explanation. Looking at the current situation, Zhao Feng did not want to fall out with the sect. "The evil god crystal is not something we can possess." Zhao Feng shook his head. Elder Fei's eyes flashed, and he raised his hand to stop the disciples who wanted to defend themselves. "Zhao Feng is right. The heretic god crystal is a hot potato. Even if we obtain it, it is of no practical significance to us, and will only attract unnecessary disasters." Elder Fei agreed with this point. He admired Zhao Feng's decision to give up the evil god crystal. At this moment in time, Zhao Feng did not have absolute strength, so he gave the evil god crystal to Nan Gongsheng, Gu Chaoji, and the other super geniuses to fight for it. "I can give you 10 vats of this blood pool's essence blood." Zhao Feng thought for a while and said, the power of the blood pool was not simple. The only downside was that the wicked power of the evil god crystal was extremely corrosive. "Sure." Elder Fei let out a breath. The 10,000 sacred clan soon had 10 vats of essence blood, which wasn't even 1/10 of the entire blood pool. However, These blood essences could only be used after they were specially processed and refined. It was unlike Zhao Feng, who cultivated a body-strengthening technique and had the little thieving cat communicate with the evil god crystal, preventing the wicked power from corroding him. Furthermore, Zhao Feng could also use some wicked power to refine his body. For the next few days, Zhao Feng laid in the blood pool and focused on cultivating and tempering his body. The blood pool was made from the blood essence of the powerful races in the underground city, and the power of the evil god crystal was merged into it. This blood pool could be used as the source of the evil god's altar, and it could also be used to strengthen a race. Zhao Feng circulated the wind lightning technique and the sacred lightning body to absorb the power of the blood pond, to refine his body and strengthen his blood yuan qi. During this time, Nan Gongsheng and those from the Earth Spirit Hall were trying to find the Scorpion Man King. However, the terrain of the underground city was too complicated, and it would be hard to find the Scorpion Man King, even if it wanted to hide. The Purple Sun Palace and the 10,000 Sacred Clan focused on the resources of the underground city as spoils of war. What surprised everyone was that, after the little thieving cat took over the position of priest, some races of the underground city came over and even offered up tributes. Zhao Feng decided to give these things to the 10,000 Sacred Clan. With the little thieving cat as the core, the 10,000 Sacred Clan, the Purple Sun Palace, and the Earth Spirit Hall were the executors, and they started to conquer the nearby races. The result was much smoother than expected. These races were extremely respectful towards the identity of the evil god's priest. Even the races that weren't any weaker than the Scorpion Men didn't dare to attack them, and would at least offer up some tributes. This was especially true for the evil god. When the little thieving cat displayed the power of the evil god, these races became even more obedient. The power of the evil god crystal isn't that simple, Zhao Feng murmured. He knew a lot about this from the Scorpion Man Queen. There were people who tried to resist the evil god's altar in the underground city, but they were destroyed by fire or natural disasters like earthquakes. From the little thieving cat, Zhao Feng learned that the evil god's priest really did have the power to change the weather underground. The evil god priest really did have the ability to affect the climate of the underground world through the evil god crystal. However, this power exhausted a lot of the priest's mental energy, so they usually didn't use it easily. In the blink of an eye, 4 or 5 days passed. With the help of the wind lightning bones and the power of the blood pond, Zhao Feng's cultivation finally broke through to the late-stage small origin core realm. The size and quality of Zhao Feng's core increased once more. Some of his core had even started to crystallize. The disciples of the 10,000 Sacred Clan were envious of this speed of cultivation. Isn't this Zhao Feng afraid that his foundation won't be stable? Old Fei couldn't help but start to think. Reality proved that Zhao Feng's foundation and cultivation were extremely stable, because he cultivated both the wind lightning technique and the sacred lightning body. His foundation was much stronger than other geniuses at the same time. After breaking through a small rank, Zhao Feng's focus turned back to cultivating the sacred lightning body. Over the past few days, Zhao Feng's golden Kuan sacred lightning body was closing in on the late stages of the 4th level. Once my sacred lightning body reaches the early stage of the 4th level, I'll be able to use my sacred lightning body. I can crush small origin core realms and great origin core realms with just the power of my body. I can't find a match for anyone below the half-step void god realm. Zhao Feng was delighted and somewhat expectant. What was more comforting was, while he was cultivating, he could also receive offerings from the underground races. Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat took 40% of the offerings from the other races. The remaining 60% was split between the Earth Spirit Hall, the 10,000 Sacred Clan, and the Purple Sun Palace. Gu Chaoji and Nan Gongsheng focused on finding the Scorpion Man King. On this day, Zhao Feng took out the dark dragon tooth grass and other body-strengthening resources in order to break through to the late stages of the sacred lightning body. Some of these supplementary body-refining materials came from the previous material room, and some were offerings from the various races. Almost there. Zhao Feng's entire body was immersed in the blood pool. Traces of silver-blue metal-like lightning patterns appeared on the surface of his body, shining brightly. In the blood pool, an invisible physical force spread out from his body, growing stronger and stronger. Every living being that came close felt an indescribably heavy pressure in their flesh and blood. At a certain moment, his physical strength was like a mountain. With a boom, he broke through a shackle. The blood of the nearby disciples started to flip, and they almost spat out blood. Zhao Feng's physical strength seemed to merge with the air, accompanied by the howling of wind and lightning. It was as if waves were crashing against the shore. Right now, I can kill a small origin core realm with just one punch with my physical body. Zhao Feng felt the strength of his body. The strength of his body nourished his mental energy and created a dominating intent. The Golden Koan sacred lightning body wasn't just about strengthening the body. When the body reached a certain level, it could strengthen one's mind and intent. When it reached a certain level, it could even merge the soul and body together. At that time, the soul of a body-cultivating cultivator would no longer be a weakness. At his peak, the demigod Kuan Yin had reached this point, and even managed to cultivate the rebirth from a single drop of blood technique. From then on, Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body had reached the late stages of the 4th level. The 5th level would correspond to the void god realm, and the 6th level would correspond to the mystic light realm. The 7th level would allow one to form a demigod body. On the 7th level, the sacred lightning body had an additional 8th level compared to the original Golden Kuan sacred body. There was even a theoretical 9th level. Higher prospects and possibilities were the biggest motivation for Zhao Feng to recultivate. Even without the cursed words of death, he would have chosen to recultivate. Who? Zhao Feng let out a breath and slowly stood up from the blood pool. The nearby members of the clan all looked at him with wary and respectful gazes. Zhao Feng, this is a rare dark soul stone from the underground city. It's a soul Dao treasure that specializes in the Dao of death. Old Fei took out 2 black jade-like stones. The black jade-like stones radiated a cold undulation of soul power. Normal people wouldn't be able to get close. Soul Dao treasure? Very good. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. Zhao Feng could take a step back in terms of the number of offerings, but he focused on the resources that were useful to him. Among them, Zhao Feng mentioned Soul Dao resources, and they were of a higher grade. Soul Dao treasures could help Zhao Feng recover his soul power. With enough Soul Dao treasures, my Emperor intent will be able to completely awaken. Zhao Feng was looking forward to it. One had to know that Zhao Feng's Emperor intent contained the laws of the God Tribulation Lightning. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to chase after the Emperor of Death, who specialized in the Tao of Death and the soul. Once his Emperor intent completely recovered, Zhao Feng's strength would increase dramatically. However, Soul Dao treasures were extremely rare. The amount and quality that Zhao Feng dug up in the underground city weren't ideal. Shua! Right at this moment, a silver streak flashed and landed in front of Zhao Feng. It was Nan Gongsheng. Zhao Feng, I've killed the Scorpion Man King and obtained the crystal core of the Purple Wind Lightning Lion. Nan Gongsheng's breathing quickened. Chapter 801. You got the crystal core of a king? Zhao Feng's eyes lit up. Nan Gongsheng was very straightforward, as a dark purple crystal core the size of a goose egg appeared in his hand. That's right. Zhao Feng took the crystal core of a king and nodded his head with joy. The nearby elites of the 3 sects all had envious eyes when they saw the crystal core. Although the crystal core was small, it had its own dimension of true yuan and was comparable to the crystal core of a void god realm king. More importantly, this crystal core was of the element of wind lightning, and it was extremely compatible with the wind lightning technique that Zhao Feng cultivated. With this crystal core, Zhao Feng's cultivation would be able to increase dramatically. The only thing lacking was that this crystal core lacked the element of water. Otherwise, Zhao Feng could just sit there and cultivate. Nan Gongsheng, I will fulfill my promise and help you obtain the evil god pearl. Zhao Feng said. Nan Gongsheng nodded his head. He had traded with Zhao Feng before, so he trusted him. After speaking, the two walked next to the blood pond and looked at the evil god crystal on the silver pillar. The evil god crystal was purple and had a layer of blood on its surface. It radiated a wicked power that could bewitch one's heart and blood. Nan Gongsheng, before we start, I need to say a few things, Zhao Feng said. Go ahead. Nan Gongsheng stared at the evil god crystal and didn't hide the heat in his eyes. The evil god crystal wasn't a substandard god crystal. It contained the power of a god at the heavenly divine realm. The only difference was, the evil god crystal had a wicked nature and the power to affect the outside world. Zhao Feng warned. Firstly, there's a lot of danger in obtaining the evil god crystal. Secondly, the power of the god crystal is too strong, and it has the ability to affect the outside world and living beings. The wicked nature it contains is immeasurable. Nan Gongsheng knew the first point very well, and the second point that Zhao Feng emphasized also caused him to ponder. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if he obtained the evil god crystal, he could still be affected and twisted by its power and evil nature. At this moment, Gu Chaoji of Earth Spirit Hall arrived after hearing the news. Let Nan Gongsheng get the Wind Lightning Crystal Core first. However, it's not like I have no chance at all. Gu Chaoji stood in the corner, secretly watching. He had heard the conversation between Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng very clearly. Obviously, the evil god crystal wasn't something that just anyone could control. At least, Zhao Feng didn't want this hot potato for the time being. I've decided. Nan Gongsheng took a deep breath as decisiveness filled his eyes. This decision was within Zhao Feng's expectations. From Nan Gongsheng's eyes, he could see a stubborn pursuit of power. Zhao Feng, you've already surpassed me by too much. For a time, I could only look up to your legendary footsteps. As for the evil god crystal, it will be an opportunity to change my fate. Battle intent flashed through Nan Gongsheng's eyes. He had complex feelings for Zhao Feng. They were both geniuses of the same generation, and Zhao Feng had stepped onto the peak of the Tsang Ocean step by step, and became an unrivaled emperor. Even mystic light realm sacred lords were wary of him. Hearing that, Gu Chaoji, Kong Feiling, the purple-robed youth, and the other peerless geniuses were stunned. This Zhao Feng, what kind of existence is he? Even someone as strong as Nan Gongsheng could only look up to his legendary footsteps. The hearts of the experts of the three sects shook. The strength that Nan Gongsheng displayed was enough to enter the top 100 of the Great Gan Imperial Genius rankings. However, even a genius like that could only look up to Zhao Feng's footsteps. At this moment in time, the handsome teen beside the blood pool seemed to be shrouded in layers of mystery. How is this possible? Old Fei, Kong Feiling, Lu Tianfan, Huang Yunhu, and company from the 10,000 Sacred Clan were dazed. Even Gu Chaoji of the Three-Star Sect, Earth Spirit Hall, had cold sweat on his forehead. At this moment, he felt that this Zhao Feng was too mysterious and terrifying. Gu Chaoji couldn't help but feel lucky that he didn't attack Zhao Feng earlier. I can only promise that I'll do my best to help you obtain the evil god crystal. Zhao Feng let out a light sigh. Junior Marshal Brother Zhao, I believe that you can do it. Apparently, you even revived the demigod Kuan Yin, Nan Gongsheng said in a testing tone. What? Demigod Kuan Yin? He appeared so quickly. This time, it was Zhao Feng's turn to be surprised. Nan Gongsheng nodded his head and said, the demigod Kuan Yin has revived and regained control of the demigod Forgotten Garden. He's also come to an agreement with the true martial sacred land. He was just testing Zhao Feng. After all, the revival of the demigod Kuan Yin was just a rumor. Zhao Feng didn't seem to deny it. Demigod. The disciples and elites of the three sects couldn't help but take in a cold breath. From the looks of it, Zhao Feng seemed to have single-handedly revived a demigod. How shocking was this? Demigod Kuan Yin. Old Fei's face was filled with shock. He seemed to know some legends about the demigod Kuan Yin. Demigod-level experts seemed to have only appeared in the other 3- and 4-star sections. The demigod Kuan Yin from the past wasn't just strong. His fame even spread to the 3-star and 4-star sects of the continent zone. This legendary figure seemed to have been revived by Zhao Feng. Next, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng quickly communicated with their divine senses. Zhao Feng understood that the demigod Kuan Yin had used a special technique to enter the demigod Forgotten Garden and merge with the demigod intent within. Under such circumstances, even mystic light realm sacred lords would find it hard to enter. Of course, the demigod Kuan Yin was still resting, and it would take some time for him to recover his peak demigod strength. After understanding this, Zhao Feng let out a sigh of relief. The child demigod definitely didn't know that Zhao Feng had revived, and he still had to be wary of the left-eyed heavenly emperor at his peak. Evil God's altar next to the blood pond. Meow meow. The little thieving cat suddenly waved the staff in its hand, and the evil god crystal on the silver pillar released a bewitching purple and blood-colored light. You should do it. Zhao Feng was about to use his magnificent power, but he gave up in the end. He felt that Nan Gongsheng's spatial domain was better. Shua. Nan Gongsheng waved his hand, and a large amount of silver light formed a whirlpool that sucked away the blood essence within the blood pond. The blood essence was useful for now, and Nan Gongsheng would give it to Zhao Feng later. The first step is complete. Zhao Feng smiled and nodded his head. Extracting the blood essence from the blood pool was to further isolate the evil god crystal. This step required the little thieving cat, the priest, to communicate with the evil god crystal. Otherwise, under the influence of the evil god crystal, the blood pool would stir up trouble, and it would be quite troublesome. Rumble. Nan Gongsheng destroyed the soul altar amidst a cloud of dust. Instantly, the evil god crystal floated in the air, and the wicked power that interfered with the outside world was greatly reduced. At this moment in time, the disciples and elites of the Earth Spirit Hall, the 10,000 Sacred Clan, and the Purple Sun Palace all paid close attention to what was happening. If it was possible, they didn't mind participating. However, right now, no one dared to interfere with the combination of Zhao Feng, Nan Gongsheng, and the little thieving cat. Zhao Feng was extremely mysterious, and Gu Chaoji and company didn't dare to talk about it. We've reached the crucial step. Zhao Feng had a solemn expression. The next step was to restrain, and then take the evil god crystal. This step was also the most dangerous. The difficulty lay in the fact that all hostile methods aimed at the evil god crystal would suffer a backlash. Zhao Feng's only advantage was that the little thieving cat had the evil god staff, and the ability to communicate with the evil god crystal. Meow meow. The little thieving cat waved its paws, indicating that it couldn't stop the evil god crystal's backfire. Retrieve. Nan Gongsheng suddenly opened his palm, and a small whirlpool made of silver light appeared and started to slowly expand. A mysterious power appeared in the air and pulled on the evil god crystal. Wang, the evil god crystal suddenly released a wicked power, and a wicked purple and blood-colored light shot toward Nan Gongsheng. Meow meow. The little thieving cat waved the staff, but it only managed to weaken the evil god crystal's backfire. Eye of Ice Soul. A misty purple light suddenly appeared in Zhao Feng's left eye, and a cold blue light appeared. The handsome youth's purple hair started to flutter. I didn't think that Zhao Feng was hiding such a powerful eye bloodline. The nearby experts and disciples of the three sects were all shocked. In this instant, an extreme power of ice covered the evil god crystal. If it was a normal power that was built on heaven-earth yuan qi, the evil god crystal would instantly shatter. However, this time, Zhao Feng's Eye of Ice Soul froze the evil god crystal. What it froze wasn't the evil god crystal itself, but the wicked nature at its core. Wicked nature was also a form of mental energy. Boom! The evil god crystal released a purple and blood-colored light that shot toward Zhao Feng. However, an invisible sacred body force appeared around Zhao Feng. The power released by the evil god crystal was extremely strong, and it suppressed the foundation of yuan qi. However, Zhao Feng's physical strength was unique, and his resistance was stronger. The strength of the evil god crystal's backfire depended on the target's hostility and threat. Peng! Peng! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng weren't even able to last a breath or two before being sent flying. Luckily, with the little thieving cat's staff, the power of the evil god crystal's backfire weakened. It's working. Zhao Feng focused on the evil god crystal and saw a half-transparent layer of frost on its surface. No matter how strong the evil god crystal was, it was only reflected in the physical dimension. Zhao Feng's eye of ice soul restricted and froze the soul. From the looks of it, this ice soul cold energy had a slight restraining effect on the evil nature within the evil god crystal. Nan Gongsheng revealed a joyful expression. He also saw hope. He took a deep breath, then floated in front of the evil god crystal and waved his hands. Amidst a burst of spatial fluctuations, a faint silvery spatial phantom appeared in the area where everyone was located. This was Nan Gongsheng's spatial domain. Wang, the deep faint silver space twisted strangely, forming a large silver hole. An extremely strong pulling force appeared at the entrance of the profound silver cave. Eye of Ice Soul, Zhao Feng circulated his eye bloodline power to the maximum and caused the frost on the surface of the evil god crystal to spread. Meow. The little thieving cat waved the staff in its hand and threw it into the silver mystic cave. The purple and blood-colored gem on the staff was connected to the evil god crystal. Furthermore, Nan Gongsheng's spatial domain also contained a pond of blood essence. The evil god crystal entered Nan Gongsheng's space domain with a whoosh as it was pulled by that huge force. Did it succeed? Nan Gongsheng spat out a mouthful of blood as he endured the backlash, but his face was filled with joy. However, an old voice sounded right at this moment. Stop. We can't take the evil god crystal away, or else it will bring disaster to the underground city and the divine illusion dimension. Chapter 802. Stop. The evil god crystal can't be taken away, or else it will bring disaster to the underground city and the divine illusion dimension. An old voice sounded from the entrance of the Snakeman's territory. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng paused and looked over. They seemed to have succeeded in getting the evil god crystal into Nan Gongsheng's spatial domain. As soon as he said that, at the entrance of the passage an old serpent man hobbled over. This Snakeman elder had white hair and wrinkles all over his face. He had a hunched back, and it was hard for him to walk. Everyone revealed weird expressions as they looked at the Snakeman elder. Hee hee. Old Snakeman King that's about to step into the grave. Do you really think you can control where the evil god crystal goes? Zhao Feng smiled lightly. Hearing that, the crowd broke out into chaos. It was hard to imagine that this Snakeman elder, who couldn't even walk steadily, was a void god realm king. Even Nan Gongsheng and Gu Chaoji didn't notice this. I'm the former priest of the evil god realm. The Snakeman elder's voice was hoarse as he gave a deep glance at the purple-haired small origin core realm youth. His life force and aura were extremely weak. Even in this situation, the opponent was still able to see through him with one glance. The hearts of Gu Chaoji and the elites of the three sects shook, and they became even more wary of Zhao Feng. This Snakeman elder was the former priest of the evil god realm, so his cultivation was at least at the void god realm. No matter what, I won't give the evil god crystal away. What does the underground city's survival have to do with me? Nan Gongsheng had an emotionless expression. He had paid a huge price to transfer the evil god crystal into his space domain with great difficulty. Old shaman, you risked your life just to stop us? Gu Chaoji seemed to be interested. Now that the evil god crystal was in Nan Gongsheng's hands, he didn't mind causing more trouble. Nan Gongsheng's eyebrows furrowed, but he also wanted to know more about the evil god crystal. My lifespan has reached its limit, so what does it matter if I die? However, there are some things that I must do. The white-haired priest said sorrowfully. At this moment, Zhao Feng, Nan Gongsheng, Gu Chaoji, and company all fell silent as they felt a sense of sorrow. They did not sympathize with the old priest. Instead, it was a reverence for the laws of life and death. As everyone knew, there was a limit to one's lifespan. For example, void god realm kings had a lifespan of several thousand years. Once one reached the limit of one's lifespan, one's life and soul would gradually wither, and one would also step into death. This was a law that could not be changed even if one seized another's body and was reborn. Putting aside void god realm kings, even mystic light realm sacred lords and demigods could only live longer, but they couldn't live forever. For example, Xiaofeng. His soul's lifespan wouldn't change much since he had reincarnated. Unless there was an external force like the immortal spring to extend one's lifespan, or to break through to a higher realm. Of course, some peak ancient emperors, such as the Emperor of Death, who was proficient in the soul of death, had a lifespan that was several times longer than others of the same rank. Everyone should know that there are often disasters in the underground city, such as lava and earth core fire. And the power of the evil god crystal can influence the eruption of a stable disaster. The white-haired old priest said slowly. Everyone present was strangely calm. This was because these were the words of an elder that was about to die. When a person was about to die, their words were kind. Could it be that this isn't a natural disaster? Xiaofeng realized something. After entering the underground city, he only knew that all the races respected the evil god's altar. Through the evil god crystal, the evil god priests did indeed have the ability to control natural disasters. That's just the surface. The white-haired old priest took a deep breath and said solemnly, only the evil god priests and a small number of people know that there's an even bigger disaster underground. An even bigger disaster? The elites of the three sects all felt an unusual atmosphere. Right at this moment, everyone felt a tremor come from the depths of the evil god's altar. Peng, peng. Xiaofeng's god's spiritual eye twitched. At this moment, Xiaofeng and Kong Feiling's imperial Dao bloodlines instinctively trembled in fear. What kind of aura could make their imperial Dao bloodlines fear? Do you feel it? The white-haired old priest had a bitter expression, and his eyes were filled with worry. What's underground? The elites of the three sects all felt uneasy. Faintly, there seemed to be an aura of calamity brewing bit by bit. You should know that there's a race in the top 10 of the 10,000 ancient races, called the Destruction Dragon Race. The white-haired old priest said, Destruction Dragon Race. The hearts of Xiaofeng, Nan Gongsheng, Gu Chaoji and company shook. Ranked 9th of the 10,000 ancient races, the Destruction Dragon Race. Old Fei exclaimed. An aura of fear spread through everyone's hearts. Ranked 8th of the 10,000 ancient races is the Golden Crow Race, and ranked 9th is the Destruction Dragon Race. The elites present all came from 2-star and 3-star families, so they obviously had a lot of experience. A race ranked in the top 10 of the 10,000 ancient races wasn't a joke. What a joke! If the Destruction Dragon Race was here, they would be able to destroy the divine illusion dimension with just one breath. A cold laugh came from a purple-haired handsome youth. The person who spoke was Xiaofeng. He had read the 10,000 ancient races ranking before, and he had a deep understanding of the unique traits, abilities, and battle power of each race. In reality, the 10,000 ancient races weren't ranked purely based on battle power. For example, the Heaven's Legacy race didn't have strong battle power, but their intelligence was unparalleled. The Heaven's Legacy race hunted the Light race, tried to create a time machine, and even had a plan to replicate the ancient races. However, the Destruction Dragon Race was definitely a race that could destroy heaven and earth, and their battle power was shocking. The Golden Crow Race, ranked 8th, only had one left in the fan universe, and it was the ancient Golden Crow. Its size was immeasurable, and it provided the entire fan universe with limitless light and heat. The Destruction Dragon Race, ranked 9th, was said to be the nemesis of the Golden Crow Race. According to what Xiaofeng knew, this race was born to destroy. Their ultimate goal was to destroy the entire world. Old Snake, how dare you lie to us? Some of the disciples and elites of the three sects let out a breath. Cold sweat appeared on Nan Gongxing's forehead. A legendary race like the Destruction Dragon Race was simply too terrifying. The white-haired priest smiled bitterly. The true Destruction Dragon Race is already extinct. However, there is a black Destruction Serpent Dragon sealed in the center of the earth, and it has a faint bloodline of the Destruction Dragon Race flowing through its body. Hearing that, the hearts of the disciples of the three sects shook. So, there was a black Destruction Serpent Dragon in the depths of the earth that contained a faint bloodline of the Destruction Dragon Race. In the past, this black destruction serpent dragon was sealed by a god. After countless years, although its strength isn't even 1% of its peak, the seal has loosened. The white-haired priest sighed. Boom! A faint tremor or heat came from beneath the evil god's altar. There seemed to be the roar of a dragon that had been suppressed for countless years. The flames of destruction wanted to return to the world and devour everything. The hearts of the disciples of the three sects jumped. An aura of destruction and fear spread. Pung! Pung! Zhao Feng felt his god's spiritual eye jump in warning. He was sure that the white-haired priest, someone who was about to die, wouldn't lie to them. Most of the disasters underground are caused by the struggles of the black destruction serpent dragon. The function of the evil god crystal is to calm disasters and stabilize the seal to a certain extent. The white-haired priest let out a breath. Speaking up to there, he sat down on the ground and explained everything. The eyes of Zhao Feng and Nan Gongxing twinkled. I won't hand over the evil god crystal. The one sealed there isn't a true destruction dragon, so it's not invincible. Furthermore, it's not even at its peak. Nan Gongxing was very straightforward. He didn't care about the lives and deaths of the underground races at all. The pinnacle of power was what he pursued. Priest, you're too late. We finally managed to move the evil god crystal away. It'll be very difficult to get it back now. Zhao Feng shook his head and sighed. He had communicated with the little thieving cat on his shoulder. Meow meow. The little thieving cat waved its paws, and a staff appeared in its hand. The purple and blood-colored gem on it had cracked. Previously, the reason they were able to take the evil god crystal away was because the blood pond and the staff were both in Nan Gongxing's spatial domain. Zhao Feng's methods and Nan Gongxing's spatial techniques were just a start. The two of them were just there to support it. More accurately speaking, Nan Gongxing hadn't obtained the evil god crystal yet. He only managed to put it into his spatial domain through the efforts of a few people. And now, it was already too late to retrieve the evil god crystal. You. The white-haired priest paused, and his face was filled with sorrow. He didn't expect those outsiders to have the ability to take the evil god crystal. When he arrived, it was already too late. I'm very sorry. Please rest in peace. Zhao Feng said regretfully and sympathetically. Wah! The white-haired priest let out a breath. His life had come to an end. In the last instant, the white-haired priest's soul and flesh started to burn, and he released a magnificent power close to the emperor level. Not good. The disciples and elites of the three sects felt suffocated. Even Nan Gongxing and Gu Chaoji's expressions changed dramatically. Did this white-haired priest want to die with everyone? Only Zhao Feng didn't panic. All races in the underground city immediately retreat from the underground world. The calamity is about to arrive. The white-haired priest's sorrowful voice spread to every corner of the underground world. Before he died, the priest used the last of his power to tell the entire underground world. Zhao Feng felt some admiration, but he murmured, the evil god crystal can only delay the black destruction serpent dragon from breaking the seal. No matter how strong the evil god crystal was, it was just a crystal. It wasn't the core of the seal. It could only slow it down. Boom! Continuous trembling came from the underground world. Lava exploded in some areas and earth fire wreaked havoc. Roar! A furious dragon roar that had been suppressed to the extreme sounded from the depths of the ground. This world will tremble under the rage of the destruction race. Ancient god Xie Yang, I will first destroy your palace and then devour your world domain. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.